теперь сконнектились. Я тут сидела минуту, сама с собой разговаривала. Клево, да? Ничего нового, в общем-то. Так, сейчас я послушаю, как оно все происходит, и начнем. Так, ну слышно вроде бы неплохо. Ой, ко мне большая штука прилетела. Знаете, которая похожа на комара, но не комар. Все, настроились. Прекрасно, погнали. Сегодня, я так понимаю, мы завершим игру, потому что здесь уже какой-то самый финал. Только я опять не помню, что надо делать. Арчи?
I, detective.
Угу.
Merci, monsieur. I shall let you continue your duties. I would not want you to upset Madame.
Мадам Вадангушта. Обыскать гостевые комнаты, точно. Все, понял, принял. Нужно представиться, прежде чем входить.
Entrez.
Комната графини. Было бы грубо не спросить у нее, прежде чем обыскивать комнату.
Detective, what a pleasure. I did not expect to see you in my chambers.
In a purely professional capacity, I can assure you.
There is no need to act so stiff, detective.
Madame, after the revelation of your actions last night, I'm afraid my sense of humor is all but gone.
А чем она занималась прошлым вечером? Я забыла.
I will not apologize again for merely trying to help. Shall we get straight to it then? Let us not waste your time any further, detective.
Она там что-то намутила с генералом, с комнатой генерала, нет? Что-то подкладывала улики или прятала улики. Я не помню, надо будет сейчас посмотреть записочку. Я видел, как вы вчера разговаривали с одной из молодых служанок.
That would be Inga. She has been one of the most promising young women that has come from the shelter.
Madame Vandenbosch took in a young lady from your shelter.
There is no need to sound so surprised, detective. She does have a heart.
I did not mean to sound so cruel. I just did not expect Madame to hire someone of that background after the incident with her previous maid, Florette.
People change, detective. You should not judge someone on their past actions.
Believe me, Countess, I know that only too well.
Вы смогли найти работу многим девушкам из приюта?
We wouldn't be doing a very good job if I could only help one girl. I in fact found work for one of them as a maid in Monsieur da Silva's house recently.
She has fitted into Monsieur's home well.
What is better, detective? That she remained in an abusive house, or she is able to rebuild her life with an honest wage in a prosperous house?
When put like that, is she happy in her position?
The happiest she has been in years. I check in with them all as often as possible. And if there was a problem, I would know.
Я рад слышать, что все больше девушек получают шанс на лучшее будущее, и графиня им в этом помогает. Я восхищаюсь щедростью, с которой вы помогаете женщинам. Это достойно уважения.
Be careful, detective. That almost sounded like a compliment.
It is your actions in this house that have been questionable, Madame. Your work outside is something that many more could take note of.
We do what we can.
Merci, Madame.
Вообще, я думала, мы спросим разрешение на осмотр. Ну ладно, нет так нет. Чудо современной техники. Какое удовольствие слушать музыку у себя дома. Ой, да. Возможно, помолвка счастливой пары пробудила в ком-то романтическое настроение. Растения опираются друг от друга, ля-ля-ля-ля-ля. Мы это уже слышали. Сейчас, а чем графиня занималась прошлым вечером? Ша-ша-ша. Так. Марго шантажировала генерала? Да? Да-да-да? Сейчас. Там еще было что-то про шантаж. Непонятно. Ладно. Нет, еще же есть раздел про героев. Можно же здесь про них почитать. Так, Марго де Вор. Она осматривала тело. И что-то даже с ним делала. Какие-то манипуляции. И Пуаро был за это на нее очень зол, потому что она одна из подозреваемых, и как она могла вообще. Все, я вспомнила. Должно быть, это подарок семье, благодарность за гостеприимство. Аптечка первой помощи. В ней все, что нужно. Бинты, пластыри, антисептики и ножницы.
Go ahead, detective.
Возможно, я слишком поспешил с реакцией на ваш осмотр тела майора.
A compliment and now an apology. Well, detective, you certainly have changed your tune.
There was something I was still unsure of. You mentioned that your training was some years ago.
From my days as a nurse, oui.
If that is so, why would you have brought several pieces of equipment usually found in a physician's bag?
One must always be prepared, detective.
Prepared? At an engagement celebration?
If I had not brought them, I would not have been able to assist you last night. Perhaps you should be thankful for my precaution and not so suspicious.
А если бы она не взяла свои принадлежности, я бы не задавал такой вопрос.
Merci, madame.
Жаклин Конрад вечно настороже. Перед обыском комнаты следует допросить ее о разговоре с майором.
Detective, what can I do for you?
Mademoiselle, I am sure you understand my reasoning for such intrusion.
If it's going to clear my name, be my guest.
If you wouldn't mind answering some questions, it can hopefully be cleared faster.
Я хочу начать с ваших взаимоотношений с майором.
Like I said, he's not the man he wants everyone to think he is.
Oui, but how is it you came to that conclusion?
You don't really want me to recount every conversation I've had with him, do you?
There is one particular I had in mind.
Расскажите о вашем споре.
An argument would imply it was a two-way conversation.
And that is not how it was?
Here it is. I've been helping Angeline get exposure, her marriage to Gideon is big news, and his work is really paving the way for others. I saw the chance to get their names out there, and he didn't like it.
What was there not to like?
Your guess is as good as mine, detective. But if I had to, I'd say he was jealous it wasn't his name at the top of the article.
And his reason to storm off?
Oh, you know about that. Let's just say I didn't accept his pathetic attempt to get me to stop the story. If you're gonna try and pay someone off, at least make it worth their while.
Я думал, что майор был всецело на стороне мадемуазель Анжелины. Но тут должно быть что-то еще, раз он не хотел, чтобы о ее счастье стало известно. Уверен, эта тема вам надоела, но месье Беккерс...
You've really got a fascination with that guy, huh?
I would not say fascination. An interest, perhaps.
Well, I'll save you the bother of trying to find out more about him. He's not that interesting. In fact, he's a bit of a wimp if you ask me.
That is not the impression I got of him.
That's because you've only seen the side of him he wants you to. He knows what to say in front of the right people. But behind closed doors, he's clueless.
В каком смысле беспомощен?
Let me guess. The first thing he told you was that he was a union leader. No, the voice of the people.
A man that is proud of his work is not something to be sneered at.
Don't get me wrong, he has a way with words, and he can certainly rally a crowd. But that's about it. At the end of the day, he's a representative and nothing more.
Мадемуазель не самого высокого мнения о Беккерсе. Она сильная, независимая женщина, но использование слова «тряпка» — неоправданная нападка на него.
Merci, mademoiselle. I shall leave you to relax.
Sure thing, detective. And if you change your mind on that exclusive about that shooting...
If I do change it, you shall be the first to know.
Что у нее тут пальто, там пальто.
Aha.
Джеки превратила свою комнату во временный рабочий кабинет. Она работает всегда и везде. Мистер Артик замечен покидающим бархатную щекотку в пятницу в 23:15. Камбер-хаус вторгся на землю соседа. Кабан, олень и утка. Пусть Мэгги доведет до конца. Миссис Бонте застала мужа на супружеском ложе с молоденькой горничной. Нужны показания горничной. Мистер Дено подслушал в каркающей вороне дурные речи о короле Леопольде. Он сказал спорные мысли. Мы говорим сомнительные, скептичные, туманные. Заметки от Фрэнсис к понедельнику. Полагаю, он принадлежит Джеки. Погоня за захватывающей историей может завести ее в опасную ситуацию. У меня и так заплеток языкается постоянно, так еще и в пятницу вечером после рабочего дня. Как говорится, всем сил. Кажется, в шкафу ничего интересного. В буфете. В одной из газет есть недавняя статья Джеки Конрад о забастовках, охвативших фабрику Эрнеста. Мирная забастовка обернулась насилием и гибелью людей. После трагических событий, повергнувших людей в ужас и резко оборвавших нарастающее неповиновение рабочего класса, район оцепила полиция, и полицейских стало намного больше. Охрану фабрики попросили уступить место представителям властей. Рабочие отложили инструменты, отключили станки и плечом к плечу сражались за справедливую оплату и достойные условия труда. То, что начиналось как мирный протест рабочих фабрики, превратилось в классовую борьбу, которую поддержали трудящиеся всего города. Согласно нашим источникам, хотя информация не подтверждена, насилие спровоцировало вторую волну сопротивления. Официальные цифры еще не опубликованы, однако считается, что в столкновении погибло не менее 8 человек. На передовой собрались те, кого считают представителями народа и рабочего класса Бельгии, который теперь отказывается вкалывать в ужасных условиях за нищенскую заработную плату. Главный комиссар Лару подтвердил, что ведется расследование вспышки насилия, приведшей к гибели мирного населения, результаты которого появятся в ближайшие дни. Жаклин Конрад.
Go right ahead, detective.
Я удивлен, что месье да Силва и майор работали вместе.
All Felix cared about was money and filling his pockets with it. That's why he got into bed with De Silver.
The Major was not in need of money, though.
Need and want are two very different things. Did he need to move here and leech off the madame? No, but he wanted to.
Что вы думаете об их совместной работе?
As far as I know, De Silver hired him to work security. He was worried what could happen to his precious factories if things got ugly.
And your reporters were there to cover the story when it did turn that way.
My reporters go where there is news to be told.
And you predicted the violence that occurred?
Anyone could see that was gonna happen. If you ask me, Hugo should have acted sooner.
Merci, mademoiselle. I shall leave you to relax.
Вот комната мадемуазель Анжелины и Гидеона. Интересно, что мы там найдем?
Aha.
Я мог бы перепутать постель Гидеона с моей. Кажется, здесь ничего интересного. В ящике, в смысле. Кажется, прежде они были ближе. Возможно, нынешнее их поведение лишь прикрытие. Мог ли Гидеон быть в сговоре с Захарией? Там лежит фотография, видимо, братьев. Да. Фоточка Гидеона и Захарии.
Ah. Aha. Aha.
Выпавший снег укрыл окружающий пейзаж, ля-ля-ля-ля-ля.
Hmm.
Максимально унылая комната, в общем. Видимо, именно комната не тронута. Я думала, попутали перевод немножко, но, скорее всего, именно о комнате речь, потому что в целом комната никакая. Обыскав все гостевые комнаты западного крыла, нужно отправиться в гостевые комнаты второго этажа восточного крыла. Где-то там должны быть свидетельства столкновения. В кабинете майора мы были, да? Да. Его грохнули. Ну все, обыскивали там. Я просто не помню, как пройти туда, куда нам сейчас надо. Видимо, через первый этаж. Ля какая. Вылетела, прикиньте. Все фигня, давай по новой. Так, все в порядке. Здесь ничего не потерялось. Здравствуйте.
Mademoiselle, we meet again.
Bonjour, Monsieur Poirot. Pardon, détective Poirot.
Just a detective is quite all right.
Bon, can I help you with something?
Это же вы сообщили всем о найденном теле майора.
I was taking him a plate of food, but he didn't answer to my knocking.
You then entered the study.
I did. He wasn't moving. He just lay there.
I did not mean to upset you again. Seeing him there would be troubling for anyone, and I'm sure it is not a memory you wish to relive.
Расскажите о ваших взаимоотношениях с другими слугами.
I suppose we're like a family. We argue, but most of the time we get along.
You must all be quite close then.
Some more than others.
You refer to whom, mademoiselle?
Well, Maman Ray, sorry, Rihanna, she's been here the longest, and she's very close with Lizzie on account of Luke.
Как же почивший жених мадемуазель Элизабет связан?
Maman Ray is Luke's sister. You didn't know that? I thought she would have said. She talks about him all the time. It must have been awful, losing him in those riots. Apparently, he was right at the front when they were charged. They didn't stand a chance. If I had been the one responsible for his death, I wouldn't want Maman Ray looking for me.
Mademoiselle Rihanna, Maman Ray, she has expressed her desire for revenge.
Every time she talks about what happened.
Как же такая информация о смерти Люка столь долго ускользала от меня? Смерть брата, несомненно, достаточный мотив. Я не заметила агрессивности мадемуазель Риане, когда говорил с ней. Но не поддалась ли она порыву отомстить, если бы такая возможность представилась? Если позволите спросить, что привело вас в приют для женщин?
I guess you wouldn't know anything about life on the streets.
It is not an experience I have had to face personally, but I understand that many are forced into it, and the lifestyle that comes with it.
The lifestyle of a thief, you mean?
Put rather bluntly, oui.
You are the first officer that has not taken one look at me and pulled out their handcuffs.
Mademoiselle, I can see you have turned your life around, and I commend you on your efforts.
Without the Countess, I would probably be rotting in a cell somewhere.
Она, очевидно, благодарна графине, и это вполне понятно.
Merci, mademoiselle.
Пусть Инга и кажется всего лишь юной невинной девушкой, но она кое-что утаивает. Если я хочу раскрыть эти дела, я должен выяснить, что. Вот это поворот! Ну, то есть, в целом-то, конечно, ожидаемо более-менее, что что-то такое будет. Какие у Пуаро красные носки под цвет туфли, это великолепно. Интересно, месье Захария также невинен, как и его брат? Нужно поговорить с ним перед обыском комнаты.
Monsieur Demir, I hope you are feeling better today.
Nothing a good night's sleep couldn't fix.
Très bien. I wonder if you would be up to discussing certain matters with me.
Whatever you need.
Ваш брат разговаривал с графиней в салоне. Не знал, что они так близки.
Those two, close.
They must share something in common to be able to hold the conversation for the time they did.
If there is one thing I know about my brother, it's that he will not. No. He cannot be rude. He just doesn't have it in him.
Was it not your brother that punched Monsieur Hagen?
Ah, that's different. He was asking for it. If you put my brother in a room with 5 socialites like her, he would work his way around every single one of them, offering his full attention and finest manners.
Простите, если тело майора вызвало вчера неприятные эмоции.
I lost my taste for death a long time ago, but it had to be done. I'm certainly in no rush to be carrying a dead body again, though.
Most understandable. I shall extend the same gratitude to you as I did to your brother.
You've spoken to him already. How is he?
Perhaps that should be a question you ask him yourself.
Yeah, maybe.
Я разговаривал с братом о вашем прошлом.
I bet he had a lot to say. He always did have an opinion on the war.
When I say your past, I refer to your past as brothers.
Oh. Okay, well, what did he say?
It seems you both had the same sentiment for this party. Perhaps the bridges that you thought were once burnt are in fact primed to be reconstructed.
We'll see how probable that reconstruction is going to be. Until he sees my point of view, I don't know how we can move forward.
What is there for him to understand before the bond can be repaired?
He lost his friends in the war, the same as everyone. But somehow he has forgiven. I'm sorry, Detective, I can't. And Gideon just doesn't understand that.
После разговора с месье Гедеоном о состоянии рассудка его брата, думаю, примирение станет лучшим поступком для братьев. Хотя месье Захария о чем-то умалчивает в своем рассказе. Смерть друзей и товарищей давит на него тяжким грузом.
Huh. Hmm.
Изукрашенный кинжал, привезенный Захарией с войны.
Hmm. Oh.
В комнате ужасный беспорядок. Сигаретные окурки, брошенные мимо пепельницы.
Order and method. That... Come, my little grey cells. I must take a different approach if I am... Magnifique.
Натянутые отношения между братьями – достаточный повод предположить, что они не станут сотрудничать.
Always got time for my favorite detective.
Во время поисков я обнаружил один особенный предмет.
The dagger. I wondered how long it would take for that to become an issue.
I shall give you the opportunity to explain the reason for it being here before I jump to any conclusions.
It was going to be a wedding gift for Gideon. I've maybe not been the best brother in recent years. I thought this could make up for some of it. After what happened to the Major, I thought it was a bit tasteless.
You did not see it fitting to tell me you were harboring a rather sizable knife in your room?
I wouldn't say harboring. And I wasn't expecting to be a suspect in a murder.
Merci for your assistance, monsieur.
Комната месье Беккерса. Без него я спокойно могу ее обыскать. Имея столько братьев и сестер, Хьюго с трудом мог добиться внимания.
Ah. Huh. Ah.
Кажется, он пытался написать какую-то речь, видимо, безуспешно. Интересно, насколько такое поведение типично для Хьюго? Вы недооцениваете силу неподчинения. Далее зачеркнуто. Ваши люди, вы можете положить конец всему этому. Мы просим лишь то, что заслуживаем. Если вы не отзовете людей, они встретят равное сопротивление. Слишком сильное сопротивление. Ваше оружие может ранить наши тела, но оно не сломит наши сердца и наш дух. Эти люди создали нашу великую нацию, нашу страну и продолжат это делать. Деньги не спасут ваши души. Что-то подобное я в Дисквилите услышал. Недавно совсем. Если что, я понимаю, что это какие-то общие места. Тематические.
Ah.
В записной книжке Хьюго есть сделанная в спешке пометка о встрече с Эрнестом. Любопытно.
Hmm. The pieces of the puzzle of...
Я верю в правдивость впечатления Джеки от Хьюго. Она невысокого о нем мнения. Будет ли Хьюго вступать в сговор с кем бы то ни было?
Another success.
Хьюго и Эрнесто подтвердили алиби друг друга. Возможно, они сговорились убить майора. Смогу ли я найти доказательства этого? Комната делового человека месье да Силва.
Monsieur da Silva, I am sure you understand the necessity for this type of search.
Not really, Detective. Your speech was rather spirited. But it did not give me much faith in your investigation.
I have not had my abilities questioned to my face by one of those I suspect of a crime before.
Well, if you wish to prove me wrong, you should hurry up and find Felix's killer.
And I hope, with your help, monsieur, I shall.
Мадам Вантенбош говорила о том, что вы работали с ее покойным мужем.
Yes, I helped him invest some money. Unfortunately, he was not the businessman he thought he was.
Madame Vandenbosch had a very similar view. At least he could have taken solace that you are both in the same position.
I think you're confused, Detective. It was Edwin that lost his fortune, not I.
Forgive my naivete. If you were helping him make viable investments, would you not have seen the same opportunity for yourself?
I told him about the opportunities. I did not tell him to put his whole family's wealth into it. The prospect of doing good meant more to him than his profit margins. He was bound to fail.
The business declared bankruptcy.
It did, until it was purchased for a fraction of its worth and made the new owner a small fortune.
Начинаю видеть в месье да Силва больше жестокости. Кажется, Виконт пытался хоть что-то изменить к лучшему, но, возможно, ему недоставало звериной хватки месье да Силва. Я знаю, что вы работали с майором. Что вы знаете о его финансовом состоянии?
He didn't have much to speak of. I was always surprised at the life he lived.
Surprised in what way?
Well, considering it wasn't that long ago he came to me asking about work, I didn't think he was in such good financial shape.
You offered him a position.
Nothing that he was willing to lower himself to. That's when he began talking about what else he could do for me.
Майор обеспечивал безопасность на ваших фабриках?
If you can call what him and his team did security. For the money I paid, I did not expect them to be so reckless.
It was a considerable amount you paid him?
There's no need to divulge amounts, but it was certainly more than was expected.
Следовало ожидать, что делец такого уровня, как месье да Силва, согласится на цену, выставленную майором за услуги. Почему же он позволил майору торговаться дальше? Расскажите об охранниках майора.
He said they were all professionals, but I saw nothing of the sort. He said he had worked with them all in the army as their superior officer. They were men that could be trusted.
But that was not the case?
I had not even met them before they arrived on site. They brought their own equipment. They looked like they knew what they were doing.
And this equipment, it included the weapons that injured and killed the workers?
It was not much of a choice, Detective. I said they didn't need them, but Felix said it was essential. He said he knew better.
Чем больше месье говорит, тем сомнительнее выглядят сделки майора. Начинает казаться, что стачки были вовсе не случайны. Прошлым вечером мы говорили о мадам Ван де Кош.
Everything that I want to say on that matter has already been said.
I understand, monsieur. But what I would like to know is, was the late Viscount aware of your feelings towards his wife?
Excuse me, Detective, but you have crossed the line.
Crossed the line like an attempt to bankrupt a business partner and friend so that you'll be able to swoop in and impress a certain target of your affections.
You make such ridiculous accusations without a shred of proof.
Your reaction at the mere suggestion is proof enough, monsieur. While I cannot arrest you for betrayal of a friend, I can hope your conscience does not forget, and that will be punishment enough.
Вы разозлили Пуаро. Поступки месье да Силва не являются уголовно наказуемым преступлением, но если бы за обман и предательство существовало наказание, он бы получил пожизненный приговор. Если прежде он уже сотворил такое, что удержит его... Что? Подождите. Если прежде он уже сотворил такое, что удержит его от повторения подобного поступка в отношении майора?
That is all for now.
Котята учатся читать. Бритвенно-острый нож для писем, почти новый, валяется на полу. Договор о сотрудничестве между Эрнесто и Хьюго. Подписи Хьюго на нем нет. Данное соглашение регулируется законодательством Королевства Бельгии. Обе стороны пришли к следующему соглашению. Текучая забастовка рабочих в каком-либо виде должна быть прекращена. Цеховые рабочие у станков и старших цехов должны вернуться на рабочие места незамедлительно. Должны быть выполнены требования настоящего соглашения и предприняты следующие действия. Подписано мистер Эрнесто да Силва, владелец фабрики и работодатель Эрнесто да Силва. Мистер владелец фабрики и работодатель. Дальше подпись. Мистер Хьюго Бейер, глава профсоюза. Угу. Письмо, в котором шантажист грозится раскрыть информацию о его сомнительных сделках. Месье да Силва, вначале цель этого письма может поставить вас в тупик. Но к его концу вы поймете, что то, что вы так долго пытались скрыть, совсем не является тайной. Вы долгие годы наживались на тяжком труде других, ничего не предлагая взамен. Ваши рабочие день за днем продолжают рисковать здоровьем и даже жизнью на ваших старых, неисправных и опасных станках за крошечную долю того, что заслуживают. Сделки заключаются одна за другой, и ваши карманы набиваются все туже и туже кровавыми деньгами, но платят за все ваши рабочие. Боль и унижение по вашей вине поселились не только на ваших фабриках, но и в вашем доме. Вы не цените жизни тех, благодаря кому ведете сытую жизнь. И я не позволю этому продолжаться. Я больше не могу спокойно смотреть, как вы отвергаете какую-либо этику и мораль, и, оставаясь на воздвигнутом вами же пьедестале, возвышаетесь над теми, кто заслуживает много большего. Пора заплатить за свои преступления. Цена 5000 франков. Это малая цена за мое молчание, ведь если я не получу деньги до пятницы, вы расплатитесь не деньгами, а годами за решеткой. Принесите деньги, завернутые в коричневую бумагу, адресованные месье Кардье, в почтовое отделение на Рю де Зантропо. Отдайте кассиру и уходите. Если вы сделаете это, вы больше не услышите обо мне и можете продолжать наслаждаться роскошью. Очевидно, что вы не цените жизнь других, но я настоятельно рекомендую задуматься о цене своей. Убийца-кухарка!
Is there something? Some would say a lucky guess.
Сомневаюсь, что эти двое смогут действовать сообща. Станет ли Эрнесто иметь дело с кем-нибудь еще? Возможно, с кем-то, кто не подтверждал его алиби.
What is it now, detective?
Месье Демир пригласил месье Беккерса, чтобы вы могли обсудить ситуацию и достичь взаимовыгодного сотрудничества.
Yes, and no one asked him to.
But surely it is beneficial to both parties. Your profits must have been affected.
There are barely any profits to speak of.
Why have those talks not taken place and a deal arranged?
Monsieur Beckers has made no attempt to speak with me and offered no counter-offer. The ball is in his court, detective.
Хотя вопрос касается зарплат рабочих и того, как месье да Силва с ними обращается, оказывается, он хотя бы пытается решить проблему. Чего не скажешь о месье Беккерсе. Удивительно. Вы не ждете никаких писем в эти выходные?
Excuse me? Detective, I think you are beginning to lose your mind.
I do not think it is unreasonable to question why you would feel the need to bring a letter opener with you.
Really, detective? If I had stabbed a man with it, do you really think I would have left it lying out in my room?
Месье да Силва прав. Сложно поверить в то, что кто-то окажется так беспечен. Все же орудие убийства где-то в доме. Надавить на Эрнеста и узнать, почему он скрыл письмо.
I have spoken of a potential blackmail ring, and yet you still kept your letter to yourself.
It is none of your business. And it is nothing more than a cheap trick to have me admit something that is not true.
If that were the case, it would be strange for you to have kept the letter and brought it with you, would it not?
Your persistence is a trait I do not enjoy.
Месье да Силва по-прежнему сдержанно, если не грубо, отвечает на мои вопросы. Возможно, мне стоит проявить больше вежливости и сочувствия, чтобы он более откровенно рассказал о письме шантажиста и его содержимом. Прямолинейно. Должна быть причина, почему вы это скрывали.
No reason, detective. Merely saving you from wasting your time.
I will be the judge of that. I would like to know about any and all evidence that may help my investigation. I trust there is nothing else you deem a waste of my time.
Of course not, officer. It's not as though you think I'm harboring some illicit secret. The letter was a pathetic attempt to intimidate me. Nothing more.
Озабочена. Вот отрывок из письма. Вы не цените жизни тех, благодаря кому ведете сытую жизнь.
I have never heard so much rubbish in all my life. I value those that work hard and deserve it.
That suggests there are some that you do not respect.
Yes, well, why should I praise someone for doing a poor job? You make me sound like some monster.
Monsieur, the letter does not only discuss your questionable business dealings, but also cases of abuse against your staff. Both accusations that must be taken very seriously.
Detective, there is a difference between telling a member of my staff what to do and abuse.
And it is you that decides where that line is drawn?
In my house? Yes, it is.
Месье не любит, когда у него выпытывают, как он обращается со слугой. Если ему нечего скрывать, то откуда такая реакция? Вы не догадываетесь, кто из прислуги мог пожаловаться на дурное обращение?
Please stop calling it that. I treat all my servants exactly how I always have, and no one has complained before.
That does not mean your behavior is appropriate.
They have one chance. If they are not doing the job they are hired to do, they are gone. You would be surprised how many staff expect an easy ride.
Я не ожидал, что месье станет относиться к слугам как к друзьям, но я и не ждал, что он будет относиться к ним как к собакам. Как к собакам.
Is there a specific member of staff that may have expected such a ride?
There is one girl, a new maid. I didn't expect great things from her, but Comtesse de Vos promised me she could do what was required.
Должно быть, это девушка, о которой говорила графиня. Возможно, работа, которую графиня подыскивает для девушек, не всегда им подходит.
That is all for now. I must act on thought and fact. This will not get me any closer. I cannot see the logic in this. I should not be surprised by my own skills of deduction.
Эрнесто не кажется мне человеком, который станет просить о помощи. Неважно, насколько плохи дела.
What a revelation!
Марго заставляет девушек из приюта выполнять за нее грязную работу. Искать секреты элиты общества.
What is it now, detective?
Вы говорили непосредственно с графиней о найме прислуги вы говорили непосредственно с графиней о найме прислуги из приюта.
She approached me. I thought it was rather brash.
In what way?
Assuming that I would want to take on another servant, and one from such a troubled background. She is running the charity, not I.
Месье, вы что-то от меня скрываете? Ваши деловые отношения с майором, несомненно, балансировали на грани законности.
When he came to me, I told him that with the factories on strike and my profits pouring down the drain, I had nothing for him. But he said he could help me get them all back to work and the factories earning. His rates were steep, but he said he knew what needed to be done, and he was prepared to do it. A week passed and they were all still on strike. In fact, even more had joined them. He made excuse after excuse, demanding more and more money for the job to be done. But he never actually told me what he was going to do.
The riots.
I had no idea they were going to charge them like that. How was I meant to know?
And even following such a tragedy, he continued to demand money from you.
He said if he wanted my silence, it would cost. Do you have any idea what it could do to my livelihood, my name? If it got out that I had paid the so-called security that did that.
I have every idea, monsieur. You hired a militia to take action against your own workers. You deserve whatever name is chosen for being so morally bereft in your decision-making.
I didn't know that was what he was going to do. You must believe me.
I have to believe nothing but the truth. And the truth, monsieur, is that it is not only the Major that has the blood of those men on his hands. That is all for now. Things are beginning to...
Марго может знать больше, чем говорит, если у нее есть связь со слугами в доме. Я не нашел ясных доказательств сговора гостей, но стала очевидной связь графини с прислугой. Может ли за этими отношениями стоять что-то еще?
Is there something you need, detective?
Расскажите о ваших взаимоотношениях с графиней.
She helped me at the shelter and with this job.
That I am already aware of. What I am not is what else she tasked you with.
Pardon, detective?
I know that your position as a servant in this house is not your only job. What did Countess de Vos ask you to do while in this house?
She said I had to do what she asked, or I would be back on the street. I didn't want to do it. If anyone found out, I would be the prime suspect.
Мадам Ванденбош должна знать о прошлом Инге, и та переживает, что мадам обвинит ее. Все вопросы, что о ней задавали, должны были относиться к ее воровскому прошлому.
Merci, mademoiselle. Come, my little grey cells. Is there something... I must act on thought and... Some would say a lucky guess.
Инга призналась, что ее работа в этом доме не всегда была честной.
This will not get... I should not be surprised by my own...
Я подумал, что со стороны Арчибальда было безответственным потерять ключ, но теперь все встало на свои места. Инга украла ключ Арчибальда.
Is there something you need, detective?
Что графиня просила вас украсть в доме?
Nothing. She said I was to take nothing.
If it was not something she wished you to take, What was it?
She wanted me to find out information about the family and Monsieur Hagen.
Why did she request that?
At first I didn't know, but when I heard about Mademoiselle Angeline being blackmailed, and then the Major, I knew she had used what I found.
Возможно, я зря подозревал, что месье Стерлинг открывал сейф майора, и его ключ был не потерян, а украден. Расскажите, как вы забрались в сейф?
I knew Monsieur Archie had a key, and it would be easy to get it from him.
You knew that the Major asked Monsieur Sterling to access the safe from time to time, and if anything was ever discovered missing, he would surely take the blame.
I never took anything. I only told the Comtesse what I had found.
And that was?
About Monsieur Hagen and the Madame's relationship, and Angeline.
I'm sure the Comtesse was pleased to hear such valuable information.
She said I had done a good job, but I needed proof. That's why I went back and got the letters last night.
Так это Инга опередила мадам Ван ден Бош в сейфа. Но почему они были оставлены так беспечно? Письма, видимо. Когда я вернулся в кабинет этим утром, сейф был открыт и письма были разбросаны.
I fetched the letters again and took them to the Comtesse last night. But she shouted at me and said what a stupid girl I was.
You were only doing as she requested.
She said it was too dangerous for her to have them with you around. That's when I returned them to the study. I thought I heard someone on the stairs, so I just threw them back. It was dark as I dared not turn the light on. Someone would have seen it.
Вставить ключ в замок в темноте непросто. Это объясняет царапины на сейфе. Если бы мадам Ван ден Бош спустилась забрать письма минуты раньше, она бы обязательно столкнулась с Ингой.
Merci, mademoiselle. Magnifique.
Интересно, сколько же семейных секретов удалось обнаружить Инге?
Things are beginning to be...
Если этот дом и хранит где-то свои секреты, то только в скрытой комнате. Мои подозрения насчет связи графини и Инги оказались верными. Она использовала девушку, чтобы та разузнала все, что могла о семье, выполнив за нее всю грязную работу.
I must take a different approach if I am to... Order and method. That is the... I cannot see the logic in this. The pieces of the puzzle are...
Что за тщательно сотканная паутина из лжи и тайн? Какой же мотив может оправдать столь отвратительные поступки? Наконец, я раскрыл личность шантажиста. Мадемуазель Анжелине и другим получателям подобных писем больше не нужно жить в страхе. Графиня Дево заплатит за свои преступления. Марго шантажистка.
Mademoiselle, merci for coming.
Have you had a breakthrough, Detective?
I have. Finally, I have the news you have awaited.
Please, Detective, don't hold me in suspense.
Наконец я раскрыл личность человека, требовавшего выкуп семейства Ванденбош.
Oh my, I feel faint at the thought of knowing who could have done this to us.
It is said to keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. It is Countess de Vos that is behind the letters.
I don't believe it. What about the Major's letter?
Not only his, but a letter to Monsieur da Silva.
She was blackmailing him as well. Detective, I just don't know what to say.
Take a moment, mademoiselle. It is a lot of information to take in.
I just don't understand why she would do such a cruel thing.
Что вы знаете о прошлом юной Инги?
She has never been particularly forthcoming with it, only that she was homeless for some time and that she was at the women's shelter before here.
And it is there that the Countess abused her power and manipulated her to uncover secrets of the family.
All this time she has been working for Margot, doing her dirty work.
I am afraid so, mademoiselle.
Мадемуазель потрясена. Узнать, что столь близкий друг семьи предал их таким жестоким образом, должно быть ошеломляет.
Is Maman aware?
You are the first I have told, mademoiselle. Next will be the authorities.
I'm afraid that we'll have to wait.
Пожалуйста, мадемуазель, нам нужно делать все правильно. Сильвупле, это пожалуйста? Или нет? Ладно.
And we will. I want to see her punished to the fullest extent of the law. But we cannot telephone anyone, as the lines are still down.
Monsieur Archibald informed me earlier I had hoped they would be working again. Last night's snow must have caused more damage than expected.
А кто-то чинит вообще телефонную линию? Или все просто смотрят такие, ай-яй-яй, телефон не работает. Скоро заработает, наверное.
Last night,
Ай-яй-яй.
they have been done all weekend, Detective. Detective? Are you okay?
Как же я мог быть таким дураком? Я видел, как месье Стерлинг говорил по телефону, но не слышал звонка.
Detective Poirot?
Это было ложью, представлением, разыгранным, чтобы сбить меня со следа. Если бы я поверил, что майор был жив в это время, мне не было бы нужды выяснять местоположение каждого ранее. Каждого, кроме месье Стерлинга и прислуги.
Would you like me to fetch you a glass of water, Detective?
My apologies,
Вот так
mademoiselle.
вот.
I was taken by surprise for a moment, but I have regained my composure. A glass of water is not required. Would you excuse me? Merci, mademoiselle.
Глава 7. Семейство. У меня кончается терпение. Гости и прислуга считают приемлемым лгать мне в глаза во время допросов и мешать расследованию. Но хватит. Мы посмотрим, как месье Стерлинг и слуги поведут себя под давлением. Мне солгали в последний раз. Вначале мои подозрения касались гостей, но сейчас переключились на слуг. Месье Стерлинг и мадемуазель Риана больше не могут прятаться за своей ложью. Угу. Пуаро перешел в режим берсерка. Подождите, ну зачем-то же я пришла в комнату. А, мы здесь просто разговаривали с Анжелиной. Ага. Эту игру надо было либо сделать чуть покороче, либо разнообразить действия, которые нужно выполнять. Кажется, Элизабет хочет повидать меня, но в такой поздний час.
Mademoiselle, what a pleasure to see you.
Detective,
It is a rather late hour to be wandering the halls.
Oh, yes, of course. I do not feel myself, Detective.
If that is the case, you should be resting. Allow me to help.
No, that's quite all right. I will see to my duties and return to bed.
Lizzie, excuse me, Elizabeth. Lady Van den Bosch has been waiting for some time now.
Oh, yes, sorry. Detective Poirot was just...
I'll see to the detective. You just head on up. Off you go.
Good night, Detective.
Bonne nuit, mademoiselle.
Определенно, мадемуазель Элизабет сама не своя. Я думал, что смерть майора пробудила в ней воспоминания о возлюбленном Люке, но тут может быть что-то другое.
I'm sorry about her, Detective. As you can see, she is still not back to her usual bubbly self.
This weekend seems to have taken quite a toll on her.
She'll be right as rain in a couple of days. Now, what can I help you with?
As if by magic you appeared when needed. I would like to speak with you and the remaining staff. If you could gather them in the staff pantry.
At this hour, Detective? Is that really necessary?
I shall be the one that determines what is and what is not necessary, and this is very much the former.
As you wish, Detective. I'll see if Inge is finished preparing for breakfast.
And Mademoiselle Rihanna?
Yes, of course. I'll fetch her from the kitchen. Elizabeth may be some time with the lady of the house. Perhaps you'd like to start with us?
Very well. I shall speak with Mademoiselle Elizabeth when her duties are complete.
While I am gathering the staff, Mr. Beckers is in the library. If you wish to join him, I could bring you both a nightcap.
I wish to keep a clear head, but there is something I wish to discuss with Monsieur Beckers.
Это возможность допросить месье Беккерса о его действиях, вернее, их отсутствии, с месье де Силва, без того, чтобы нас потревожили. Так, библиотека. А не подскажете, как туда пройти? А, все.
Monsieur Beckers, it is rather late. The other guests have already retired to their rooms.
I didn't even see the time. It's easy to lose oneself in a library this impressive.
That is something we can agree on, monsieur.
I suppose I should be heading.
A moment, monsieur. There are some matters that we must discuss.
Oh, what is it, detective?
Как я понимаю, месье де Силва подготовил сделку.
A deal? It was an insult.
And that is why you did not sign it?
I didn't sign it because the workers deserve so much more, not his pathetic attempts to get them back to work.
Did you think there was a chance for a better deal to be made?
I know there was. He's a pompous swine that cares for only himself and filling his pockets.
Уверен, раньше я уже слышал такое описание месье де Силва. Или очень похоже. Интересно, ваша речь произвела впечатление, которого вы ожидали?
My speech? I'm not sure what speech.
You may save your false ramblings for your next audience. I am aware you spoke with the Major yesterday.
Whoever told you that has it wrong, Detective.
Please, monsieur, the truth.
Okay, fine. Yes, the Major and I spoke, but it was not for long.
Каким был характер вашего разговора? Как я понимаю, это была не милая болтовня.
I was trying to convince him to speak with Ernesto. It's time we brought the strikes to an end.
And that was best approached by a shouting match?
He wouldn't listen to what I said. I spent so long preparing how I was going to convince him, but men like him are only swayed by one thing: money.
Месье Беккерс не ошибается. Если бы он попытался подмазать майора, может быть, разговор был бы успешнее.
It is said that money is the root of all evil, but it can also be a rather powerful bargaining chip.
Well, he was bargaining with people's lives. If he had acted sooner, none of those men, my men, would have to die.
Майор следил за безопасностью на фабриках. Мог ли он сделать больше, чтобы прекратить забастовки, прежде чем они перейдут в насилие? Я не подозревал, что ваши взаимоотношения с мадемуазель Конрад были такими деловыми.
I'm not sure what you mean.
A proposal to make you somewhat of a star, a figurehead for the working man. What would you call that?
There was certainly no talk of making me a star. That is not the type of man I am. She wanted to write a piece on my work with the union, and I was happy to oblige.
Месье Беккер всегда ставил желание рабочих во главу угла. Однако, возможно, мысль о том, что его будут помнить за великие дела, была настолько притягательна, что он не смог ей противостоять. Надавить на Хьюго, чтобы узнать, как на него влияет Жаклин.
Mademoiselle Conrad can be quite convincing, can she not?
She has certainly taken several wealthy business partners by surprise with her knowledge and prowess. She knows how to use her womanly powers to get what she wants.
But she did not surprise or use you?
Me? Used me? Don't be ridiculous, detective. There were no games played at my expense.
Возможно, месье Беккерса стоит разговорить, грубо говоря. С любопытством. Даже несмотря на то, что она смогла убедить вас не подписывать сделку?
No, she just reminded me of what I was fighting for.
Вы утверждаете, что отказались заключать предложенную месье да Силва сделку, поскольку она не подходила вашим людям?
And I stand by that. It was an insult.
A rather bold move to make such a decision on your own.
Вы глава профсоюза. Ваша работа — поддерживать рабочих. Но ничего из сделанного вами не привело к обещанному результату.
I may not be perfect, but I've done everything I can.
Your efforts fell short in every respect. You claim to be the voice of the people, but you care about no one's voice or benefits but your own.
It's not as easy as just signing a piece of paper, detective. It is a heavy weight to bear on one's shoulders. I consulted with others.
You yourself spoke of Mademoiselle Conrad's cunning in business.
And I told you, I was not one of her targets.
Tell me then, what was it she reminded you of? The acclaimed man of the people you would be known as if you pushed the factory owners for more?
It wasn't like that at all.
From where I am standing, it was she that was manipulating the terms of the deal, and you in the process. You were merely her pawn.
Okay, yes, I know. I shouldn't have listened to her. But what else could I do? Remain an unknown my whole life? I didn't mean for anyone to get hurt.
It may not have been your intention, but we both know the result. You rolled the dice with those men's lives for fame, and you lost.
Пардон за нескромный вопрос, но вы из большой семьи?
What does that have to do with anything?
I have often wondered about the competition siblings face in a large family.
When you're young, it is the best feeling to know you have family that will stand by you, without even being asked. It is not until everyone starts carving their own path that you realize you're walking yours solo, and those that were beside you are now miles away. My older brothers were the athletes of the family. They both played soccer, and were the infatuation of every teenage girl. I'm sure you have seen the type.
Oui, monsieur, but I can assure you that was not I.
Then there was me. Quiet, timid, a shadow of the Becker brothers. My voice and very presence was forgotten and ignored. Nothing I could say or do would ever reach the bar they had set. But I always knew I was destined for great things. Years passed, and now that I no longer stood in the colossal ombre of my brothers, I could become my own man. When the position of union leader was posted, it was my chance to finally be heard. You hear politicians speak of the little or the common man? Well, that was me. And I knew what we wanted and what we needed. When I spoke, others listened. I held their gaze with a sense of pride, a sense that what I was doing was for the greater good. It was supposed to be my crowning achievement, lead the men to victory over the money-grabbing oppressors. But instead, all I did was lead them to their deaths.
Monsieur, it was not at your hands that these men died. The blame cannot lie solely on your shoulders. Those responsible will be punished for their crimes. That you must trust.
Рассказ месье Беккерса– это история о сражении за то, чтобы голос как одного человека, так и масс был услышан. Боюсь, его запомнят за его поступки, а не за надежды и чаяния. Погнали разносить шайку-лейку. Буфетную. Разговор с месье Беккерсом не был основной причиной, почему они в постели. Однако он смог заполнить некоторые пробелы в моих знаниях о майоре, хотя и не помог приблизиться к обнаружению его убийцы. Возможно, комнаты слуг помогут в этом. Комнаты слуг. А где оно? Здесь, нет? А, нет. Тогда на первом этаже. Внушительный запас дров. Надеюсь, в такую погоду прислуга не станет их экономить. Этим газетам уже несколько дней, и они не освещают произошедшее здесь в эти дни. Кажется, в буфете ничего интересного. Боевая медаль, полагаю, принадлежит майору. Медаль в чем-то багаже? Класс. багаж Арчибальда. Ой, подожди, а что он здесь еще? Сама себе вбила в наушники. А, я рад быть гостем в этом доме. Не уверен, насколько хорошо я бы спал в таком положении. В гамаке, в смысле. Что я пропустила? Весьма роскошный пиджак с инициалами ФХ, Феликс Хаген. А эти ношеные ботинки тоже его? Тогда почему все это брошено здесь? Найденные мною вещи интригуют и требуют разъяснений, которые могут дать, полагаю, только слуги. Встречу с ним у буфета. Они его обобрали,
Detective,
что ли?
what can we do for you?
You can help me by telling the truth, and in the process, help yourselves.
Sorry, Detective. It's a bit late in the night for riddles.
It is no riddle, monsieur. If I do not receive the truth, you shall all be charged as accessories to murder.
Detective, I think maybe you have been locked in this house for too long. We have already...
You have told me a version, and now I require honesty. This will not get me. I must act on thought, order and method. That... Is there something? Another success.
Майор не оставил бы столь хорошее пальто в крыле для слуг. Кто-то его носил. Главный вопрос — кто?
I cannot see the logic in this. Come, my little grey cells. I must take a different approach if I am... I cannot see the logic in this. What a revelation!
Версия о том, что майор был убит во время обеда, не более чем обман. Почему слуги скрывают истинное время смерти?
Mademoiselle, I shall be as quick and precise with my questioning as possible.
Okay. What do you need?
Мои соболезнования по поводу кончины вашего брата.
Merci. He was a good man. Taken too early.
Forgive me, mademoiselle, for not extending them earlier, but I was not aware of your relationship.
He was my only brother. And he died doing what he believed was right. If I ever get my hands on who took him from me.
Понимаю, почему она так разгневана. Ее брат покинул этот мир в столь юном возрасте и столь жестоким способом. На насилие нельзя отвечать насилием, но не уверен, что мадемуазель считает так же. Расскажите о причастности вашего брата к беспорядкам на фабрике.
You say the riots, but it was the strike he was part of. They started the riots, not the workers.
By they, you are referring to the security forces. They were brought in to keep the peace.
Security, huh? They were brought in to make an example of them. It was all peaceful until they arrived.
Why would they need to make an example?
So that the workers would stop rallying. No one is going to go on strike if they think they'll get killed. The security you talk of were armed and ready. The workers were pigs to the slaughter. What chance did they have?
Очевидно, мадемуазель все еще опечалена гибелью брата и имеет полное на то право. Если все было так, как описывает мадемуазель, я не могу представить, как охранники могли совершить такой отвратительный акт насилия. Пардон, мадемуазель, знаю, что мы об этом уже говорили, но вы принесли майору лед, верно?
Yes.
This was before or after Archibald took him a bottle of whiskey.
Before.
You are sure?
It may have been after.
The whiskey is kept in the cellar with all the alcohol.
It is.
Then you must have noticed him going into the cellar and returning with a bottle through the pantry, no?
Yes, I suppose I did. It must have been before then.
Лишь один вопрос, и мадемуазель уже сомневается в своем рассказе. И все равно я не вижу причины для лжи.
Merci, mademoiselle. That is all for now. Monsieur Sterling, is there anything you would like to add to your story?
I'm not sure what you think I have done, Detective.
Let us not string out this charade any longer.
Вы можете объяснить, почему принадлежавшая майору медаль оказалась в ваших вещах?
Oh, you found it. Thank you, Detective. I've been looking everywhere for it.
If I had lost a war medal, I would not stop until I found it.
It's not what you think. I was...
Exploiting a dead man's military achievements for your own personal gain?
Nothing of the sort. He asked me to clean them up. I must have dropped it into my pocket when I was putting them back. An honest mistake.
Никогда прежде я не слыхал столь жалкого оправдания для кражи. Ребенок бы придумал что-нибудь получше. Я не считаю себя экспертом, но могу предположить, что такая медаль стоит немало.
I wouldn't know. Probably.
Your father was in the military for many years. That is what you told me.
He was.
And your family still keep his medals?
They were sold.
And why was that, monsieur?
Is my family on trial now, Detective?
Only you, monsieur. And I repeat my question.
Because we needed money.
Voilà.
Когда месье Стерлинг протоптал дорожку к имуществу майора, он знал стоимость медали. Вы утверждаете, что майор попросил вас почистить медали, чтобы выставить их на обозрение?
No. He keeps them safe with some of his old military documentation.
Is that a typical job for the head butler?
He trusts me to do a good job. I told him I used to clean my father's, so he asked me to do the same.
And where does he keep these items?
In the storage room. I know where everything is, so it's just easier if I fetch them for him as and when he needs them.
Не помню какой-либо армейской атрибутики или памятных вещей в кладовке. Он может говорить о какой-то другой кладовке. Недавний телефонный звонок майору.
From his associate. I've already told you, Detective. I don't know who it was.
Do not worry yourself on such details now. I suppose they were lucky to have called when they did. Otherwise, they may not have gotten through at all with the telephone lines being down as of yesterday.
Aye, Detective. Lucky, I guess.
Месье Стерлинг не глуп. Полагаю, он знает, что я о чем-то подозреваю. Возможно, чтобы он ошибся, нужно задавать ему тщательно сформулированные вопросы. Вы последним видели майора живым, когда принесли бутылку виски ему в кабинет, верно?
whiskey?
You took a bottle of whiskey to the Major. You spoke with Monsieur Demire en route.
Aye, of course. It was a bottle he picked up from his last visit to Scotland. Rather smoky number from the Highlands. He was saving it for a worthy occasion. Drowning his sorrows must have been fitting enough.
Вначале он вообще не помнит о бутылке, а потом, как по волшебству, вспоминает мельчайшие подробности.
Or was it the one from the west coast? You'll have to excuse my memory, detective. It's not what it used to be.
Вы счастливы в доме семейства Ванденбош?
It's certainly better than my last.
You are paid a fitting wage for the work that is asked of you.
I'm sure the lady of the house would not want me discussing it. But I should not complain.
That is not the most convincing answer, monsieur.
Between you and I, we all work very hard here. And it would be nice if we were rewarded for it.
Кажется, месье Стерлинг пытается убедить меня, как и себя самого, что его нечистота на руку оправдывает маленькой зарплатой за усердную работу.
Please don't go anywhere. If I require more information, I shall call on you again. Order and method. That... I must act on thought. Come, my little grey cells. We must... I must take a different approach if I should not be surprised by my...
Как они оба могли забыть нечто важное, что произошло лишь день назад?
Some would say a lucky guess.
И Арчибальд, и Рианна хорошо сыграли свои роли, но пока не расслабились. Но только пока не расслабились. Почему же слугам понадобилось придумывать показания?
Is there some... This will not get me any... Come, my little grey cells. We... Things are beginning to...
Мне с первого взгляда следовало понять, что они принадлежат кому-то из слуг. Ботинки, в смысле. Но кому?
Magnifique.
Кто-то из слуг надел одежду майора и встал на то место, где он обычно курит, во время снегопада, чтобы его увидели гости. Зачем они это сделали?
The pieces of the puzzle are...
Мне почти пришлось пересказывать обоим их рассказы. Очевидно, я не могу верить ни единому слову. Почему слуги скрывают правду?
What a revelation!
Такого открытия я не ожидал. Слуги причастны к убийству. Тогда как юная Инга виновна в преступлениях, связанных с шантажом, месье Стерлинг и мадемуазель Рианна скрывали улики и правду о том, как был убит майор. Для начала слуги уже вызывали подозрения, но это подтверждает их причастность. Все ли слуги причастны? Я близок к тому, чтобы раскрыть правду об убийстве майора, но прежде чем решить головоломку окончательно, я должен выяснить, кто какую роль играл.
This will not get me another success.
Не могу представить себе боль, которую испытали Элизабет и Рианна, потеряв Люка. Память о нем всегда будет жить в их сердцах.
Is there something I must act on thought? Things are beginning.
Я уверен, что Инга не помогала скрывать то, что с таким усилием скрывали другие слуги.
Mademoiselle, I shall keep my questions brief.
I don't know what else I can tell you.
You have been honest with me so far. All I request is that you continue to do so.
Oui, détective.
Я уже знаю о причастности мадемуазель к шантажу, но не уверен, что она связана с убийством майора. Расскажите, что произошло до того, как вы нашли майора в кабинете?
It was frantic in the pantry. We were working hard to make sure everything was up to scratch.
Go on.
Then Liz burst in, asking for Mamore's help.
Her help with what?
I don't know. She took Liz to one side, and I was needed in the salon. We spoke just after that in the pantry.
You did not question what she needed help with?
I was too busy. I love Liz, but she sheds a tear at almost everything these days. Although, I have never seen her look so pale.
Мадемуазель Элизабет все еще была бледна, когда я видела ее ранее. Я понимаю, сколько работы ей приходится выполнять в столь большом доме, но мадам не следует заставлять слуг работать, когда те больны. Возможно, мадемуазель Рианна сможет прояснить причину паники Элизабет.
Merci. I shall return if I have any further questions. I must take a different approach if... I cannot see the logic in this. Order and method. I must act on thought. Some would say a lucky guess.
Элизабет казалась бледной, а прочие слуги были заняты выполнением своих обязанностей. Должно быть, она нашла тело. Но играла ли она какую-то роль в убийстве?
Another success.
Хотя обязанности Рианы не выходили за пределы кухни и буфетной, я не помню, чтобы видела.
I should not be surprised, but...
Переодевание Рианы майором было частью замысла. Зачем, я еще не уверен. Зачем ей понадобилось выгораживать Элизабет? Оу. У меня здесь летает какая-то кракозябра и пристает ко мне. А тут важное дело, между прочим. Так, Риана выгораживала Элизабет.
Come, my little grey cells. We... Is there some... I cannot see the logic in this. What a revelation!
Арчибальд применил все свои актерские способности, чтобы выгородить кого-то из слуг. Но кого?
I must take a different approach if I... This will not get me in. order and method. Magnifique.
Притворный телефонный звонок был задачей Арчибальда. Он приложил много усилий, чтобы защитить Элизабет. Но зачем ему понадобилось выгораживать Элизабет? Тогда как юная Инга виновна в преступлениях, связанных с шантажом, месье Стерлинг и мадемуазель Риан скрывали улики и правду о том, как был убит майор. Теперь у меня есть все части головоломки. Я должен вернуться в свою комнату и складывать их до тех пор, пока не появится результат. Угу. Сложите слово вечность, слово жопа, да? Или наоборот. Ну, погнали. Крокозябра, ну иди тоже спят. Питает тут, нервирует. Так.
The pieces of the puzzle are...
Как же это могло ускользнуть от меня? Элизабет убийца. Поверить не могу, что не видел этого. Ослеплен собственным доверием. Когда я оглядываюсь назад, то вижу, что улики были у меня перед глазами. Я потратил время на установление связи между гостями. Их мотивов и действий было вполне достаточно, чтобы возбудить подозрения. Но пока я отвлекся на них, я не заметил отсутствующего домочадца. Я все еще не могу сообразить, почему. После того судьбоносного дня в столице я обещал себе, что не позволю своим суждениям вести меня по течению. Но я снова выгляжу дураком. Сегодня больше уже ничего не сделать. Мне нужно хотя бы попробовать дать отдых мозгу, чтобы подготовиться к допросу мадемуазель Элизабет утром. Глава 8. Правда. Что это еще такое? Это что, слон сбежал и пробрался на 3-й этаж? Звук доносится из комнаты прямо надо мной. Но там же кладовка. А, стоп, лестница здесь. И зачем месье Стерлингу шуметь там глубокой ночью? Посреди ночи Арчибальд не спит и чем-то шумит. Я должен выяснить, что он намеревается сделать.
Monsieur Sterling.
Oh, Detective, I was just...
Please, I eagerly await to hear what reason you give for being in the storage room at this hour.
A butler's job is never...
I am no fool, monsieur. You have spun enough stories this weekend.
Honestly, Detective, you don't trust anyone.
And with good reason.
Мое терпение на исходе. Что вы здесь делаете?
I've been thinking about my time with the family.
I often think on fond memories, but it does not take me to a storage room in the middle of the night.
There are many memories held within these walls. I just wanted to see them again.
Судя по словам месье Стерлинга, он собирается покинуть дом. Звук был такой, будто вы двигали мебель.
I didn't realize the noise I was making.
Obviously. Were you preoccupied looking for another of the Major's medals?
Of course not. I already explained.
No, monsieur. You attempted to dupe me again into believing one of your stories.
Please, detective. I know you know how it ended up in my possession. I was just trying to get some extra money together to send home. I can't lose this job. If Lady Van den Bosch found out...
Theft of a medal would be the very least of your problems.
И вы, и мадемуазель Рианна рисковали свободой, чтобы помочь Элизабет.
You never let on. How long have you known it was her?
Monsieur, I am Detective Hercule Poirot. I only show my hand when I deem it necessary.
You will be taking her away then.
She will stand trial for what she has done.
But you don't know the full story. She is just a servant in this house. If she is arrested, that will be the end for her.
If Mademoiselle was only protecting herself, as you both have claimed, she will surely be found innocent.
Вы только обманывали и злоупотребляли своим положением в этом доме.
Deceive? I'm sorry that I lied to you about the medal.
Даже на очной ставке месье Стерлинг остается непреклонен и отказывается признать содеянное.
Would you care to explain the fake telephone call? It was purely for my benefit, no?
Why would I fake a telephone call?
The same reason that Mademoiselle Rihanna dressed in the Major's jacket in the snow, to allow not only the guests but me to believe the Major was still alive.
I didn't kill him, detective.
I know, monsieur, but I also know that you helped the one that did to cover their tracks.
It wasn't like that. We were just trying to help. She had no part in it.
Вы все еще не объяснили, что делали здесь.
The Major's military storage box.
The one that stored his medals.
Amongst other things, yes.
And those other things are?
I had to protect her. If you found it when searching the study, you would have carted her off then and there.
Whatever it is you have hidden, it will not remain that way for much longer.
Месье Стерлинг явно что-то скрывает. Возможно, мне следует поискать самому, нежели опираться на его туманные высказывания.
I need a moment.
Одно из нескольких резных изображений святых, висящих по дому, лежит в коробке в кладовке. Почему оно здесь?
Things are beginning to be...
Снятое изображение может относиться к двери в эту комнату. Это объясняет присутствие Арчибальда.
This will not get me any... Is there something I... I must act on thought. I should not be surprised by my own...
Должно быть, Арчибальд спрятал предметы в тайной комнате. Полагаю, до нее можно добраться через кладовку. Здесь ничего нет. В часах ничего нет. Под ковром тоже ничего нет, видимо. шкаф же двигали. О, нормально. Скрытая комната. Кажется, этот дом хранит еще немало секретов. Армейский сундук майора. В нем хранится несколько писем и памятные вещицы. Зажигалка выглядит очень дорогой. К сожалению, видно, что она прошла войну. Последняя воля и завещание почившего виконта. Кажется, он искренне любил Анджелину. Последняя воля и завещание, волеизъявление. Я, виконт Эдвин Ванденбош, нахожусь в здравом уме. Настоящее завещание выражает мою последнюю волю, без принуждения или угроз. Статья 1. В случае моей смерти я назначаю жену, Кассандру Ванденбош, исполнительницей завещания и управляющей имуществом семьи Ванденбош, а все имущество я завещаю единственной дочери, Анджелине Ванденбош. Какие-либо непогашенные задолженности, расходы на мое лечение, похороны и административные издержки должны уплачиваться со счета Ванденбоша в банке Бельгии. Дочери моей Анджелине, ты услада очей моих и ярчайшая звездочка на небе. Не дай этому свету угаснуть ни на минуту. Моей жене Кассандре, благодарю за радостные годы, проведенные вместе. Мы вместе смеялись, вместе любили и принесли в этот мир самый драгоценный дар. Я верю, что ты защитишь ее и подготовишь к будущему полному надежд и возможностей. Виконт Эдвин Ванденбош. Месье Виктор Ружо. Юридическая контора Ружо и Петти. Добротный армейский нож, кажется, принадлежал майору.
Another success.
Эта зажигалка принадлежит майору. Армейский символ это подтверждает. Но разве я уже не находила зажигалку? Не понял.
The pieces of the puzzle are finer.
Зажигалка, которую я нашел в армейском сундучке, несомненно принадлежит майору. Значит, другая нет. В саду еще нашел зажигалку. Ага.
Come, my little Grace. I cannot see the logic in this. What a revelation!
Орудие убийства найдено. Должно быть, это его Элизабет использовала в кабинете.
There is no use lying anymore.
Когда я вчера осматривал сад, я обнаружил зажигалку, по моему предположению, принадлежащую майору.
He always had his regiment lighter that he received in the war on his person.
And yet, it was not his regiment emblem that was engraved on it.
My father's. It must have fallen out of my pocket. You still have it, Detective.
Monsieur, you have stashed evidence, manipulated a crime scene, obscured my investigation, and yet it is a lighter that you worry about most?
If it is my path to end up behind bars for what I have done, so be it. It is Elizabeth that you cannot allow to be locked up without the truth being told. I have heard how you fought for that young maid before. Florette, is it? I only ask that you do the same for Elizabeth.
Хотя эти дела сильно различаются по степени тяжести, я предвижу, что власть имущие и верхи общества будут относиться к мадемуазель Элизабет так же, даже до суда. Как офицер полиции я дал клятву защищать справедливость и нести правосудие. У мадемуазель должна быть возможность доказать перед судом свою невиновность, как и у прочих подозреваемых. Отсутствующее орудие убийства.
You found it.
Even the secret area that has been created here is not concealed enough to stop Detective Hercule Poirot.
I couldn't just leave it at the scene for you to find.
The Major was killed by his own knife. The knife that protected his life during the war would eventually be the one that ended it.
It was in his holster when he attacked her. He had hold of her arm. What else was she meant to use to get him off of her?
Представить не могу, чтобы майор так просто отдал свой нож. Должно быть, он настолько приблизился к ней, что она смогла взять его. Возможно, он и вправду напал на нее, как она утверждает.
She didn't plan any of it, Detective. She was only defending herself.
That is what Mademoiselle told you?
She did, and I believe her. You think you knew the Major, but you had no idea. He was a monster and had more secrets than all of us combined.
That may be true, but that does not excuse what she has done.
Put yourself in her shoes for a minute. If a man like that had attacked me the way he did Lizzie, I would have done a lot worse to him.
Мадемуазель Элизабет рассказала месье Стерлингу версию событий, которая предполагает, что майор напал на нее. С трудом могу поверить, что она придумала такую историю, но ведь я не верила в то, что она могла совершить преступление.
I need a moment. Some would say a lucky guess.
Если я нашел лишь зажигалку Арчибальда, значит, он подобрал что-то еще. Что Арчибальд взял в саду?
I must take a different approach if I am... Order and method. I must take a different approach if... Magnifique.
Арчибальд выбросил орудие убийства из окна, подобрал его и спрятал в тайной комнате.
There is no use lying anymore.
Это вас я видел в саду той ночью.
When you asked me yesterday about seeing someone out there, I thought the game was up.
That does not explain what you were doing out there.
When Lizzie took me to the study, the knife was still in the Major's chest, and I knew I had to get rid of it. I dropped it out of the window, knowing no one would be going outside. It was fine for the time being, but I couldn't risk it being found when the snow melted.
So you collected it under the cover of darkness and stowed it away in here where you thought no one would find it.
After your questioning in the pantry, I knew you were onto something, and I couldn't leave it here.
And where did you plan on moving it to?
Honestly, I don't know.
Забрать предмет и спрятать его, чтобы спасти Элизабет? Должно быть, он очень хочет защитить ее от законов.
There is no use.
У меня последний вопрос. Почему?
Why what? Why I would risk everything to help Lizzie?
Exactement.
Because she is family. If you were in that position, you would do the same.
I can assure you, monsieur, that I would not.
Then perhaps that says something about you, Detective. I would do anything for her. For any of my staff.
Even if it means crossing the boundaries of the law?
Without question.
Месье Стерлинг готов пойти на многое, чтобы защитить тех, кого считает семьей. Это достойно восхищения. Но если это многое подразумевает приступить закон, защищающий невиновных, этого нельзя спускать с рук. Я попрошу вас и мадемуазель Рианну по завершении ваших утренних обязанностей оставаться в крыле для слуг.
Aye, Detective. But please, you have to help Lizzie. It was all an accident. She doesn't deserve to spend the rest of her days behind bars because of that man.
If she is put behind bars, it is because that is what the courts have decided upon.
Detective, you can't be so cruel.
It is not cruelty, monsieur. It is the law.
После всех этих открытий мой разум бурлит, словно шоколадная лавка месье Гуе. У меня есть все части мозаики, которые позволят понять, почему Элизабет убила майора. Теперь пусть серые клеточки соберут их в одно целое. Угу. Ну что, серые клеточки?
Come, my little grey cells. We... Magnifique.
Интересно, а в книге Пуаро тоже говорил про их маленькие серые клеточки? Я не помню, я читала что-то про Пуаро, но очень давно. Все хочу перечитать Агату Кристи вообще. Или дочитать, перечитать, но пока не доходит. Финансовые затруднения майора привели его к поиску источника дохода. К кому же он обратился в трудное время?
What a revelation!
Майору было нужно сохранить работу. Только это гарантировало, что он получит оплату. Что же он сделал, чтобы работа была выполнена?
The pieces of the puzzle are finally coming together.
Чтобы гарантировать оплату, майор, должно быть, приказал атаковать бастующих. Каковыми же были последствия приказа майора?
Another success.
К сожалению, приказы майора привели к гибели Люка. И все из-за жадности. Кто же больше всего пострадал из-за этого?
I should not be surprised, but...
Элизабет потеряла больше всех причастных. Она могла хотеть отомстить.
I must act on thought and... Is there something... Things are beginning...
Раскрытие информации о том, что майор убил военнопленных, убило бы его репутацию. Прекрасный мотив для шантажа. Элизабет не кажется мстительной, но все указывает на то, что она мстила за возлюбленного Люка. Если мне придется обвинить мадемуазель Элизабет, я должен приложить все усилия, а мои серые клеточки должны быть в полной готовности. Пора, по крайней мере, попытаться отдохнуть. У меня нет времени бороться со сном. Мне нужно устроить очную ставку с мадемуазель Элизабет и, наконец, узнать правду о произошедшем.
Detective Poirot, I'm glad you're awake.
Bonjour, mademoiselle. It has certainly not been a night of peaceful sleep. There is something that we must discuss.
Please, detective, I'm not sure I can take any more surprises like last night.
I'm afraid this may be the most upsetting of them all.
You have found Felix's killer, haven't you?
I have. And the guilty party will certainly come as a shock.
Мне не доставляет удовольствия говорить вам это, мадемуазель.
Detective, please.
It was Mademoiselle Elizabeth that was behind the Major's death.
You must be mistaken. Elizabeth could not do such a thing.
I assure you I am not. It is something I spent much of last night deliberating. When you spoke of the telephone lines being out of order, it made me question the conversation I thought I had heard Monsieur Sterling make with the Major before connecting the call to him.
But it hasn't been working all weekend.
Exactement, mademoiselle. That is when I knew I had once again been lied to.
Когда я шел поговорить с месье Стерлингом и мадемуазель Рианной, я встретил мадемуазель Элизабет.
She was meant to be resting in the staff quarters. She has not been well.
Запутаюсь.
I am afraid that was yet another lie, orchestrated to keep her from incriminating herself.
Why would you think that, detective?
I only managed a few words with her before we were quite abruptly interrupted by Monsieur Sterling.
I must admit, he has a habit of speaking over the other staff.
It was much more than merely disturbing our conversation. It was done with the intention to prevent Mademoiselle saying something that she should not.
So, Elizabeth killed Felix, and then Archibald helped her cover it up?
In its simplest form, oui. I have heard it directly from the horse's mouth.
You have spoken with Elizabeth already? Did she admit to it?
Not Elizabeth, but Monsieur Sterling.
Прошлой ночью вас не разбудил жуткий шум из кладовки?
I wasn't. What were you doing in there, detective?
It was Monsieur Sterling that I found in there. I was taken by some surprise to hear anyone awake at that hour.
What on earth was he doing?
He claimed he was merely reminiscing of his time with the family.
You don't believe him?
It did not take long for me to uncover the truth of why he was there and the location of the Major's murder weapon.
Вы знали о тайнике в кладовке?
Hidden area?
A room that held all of the Major's secrets.
I had no idea. Did you discover the reason for his blackmail?
I did. Were you aware he was dishonorably discharged from the army?
Dishonorably? What does that mean?
Я не стану скрывать правду от мадемуазели, но постараюсь как можно деликатнее сообщить ей новости о прежних поступках майора. Уверен, вы осведомлены о некоторых сложностях месье Захари, которые он испытывает в отношении войны.
Yes, Gideon told me about the conversation you had. It is really quite upsetting.
Zachariah was adamant of the Major's cruelty during the war, but the extent was not known until now.
Surely not. He would not do such a thing. They must have been trying to escape.
I am afraid not. They were in fact unarmed.
Oh, detective.
It is the reason he was discharged, denied his military pension, and I believe the reason he fled England.
He had been such an important part of my life for so long, but I feel like I hardly knew him.
Месье Стерлинг непоколебимо уверен в невиновности мадемуазель Элизабет.
Innocence? You said it was she that killed him.
It was her hand that held the knife, but he was quite insistent it happened in self-defense.
In all of the years I have known her, she has barely even raised her voice. I cannot believe she would do something like that out of malice.
The whole truth cannot be known until Mademoiselle Elizabeth has told her story.
Я позволил своему впечатлению о ее нраве заслонить любую мысль о ее причастности, и, кажется, не только я. Настало время допросить мадемуазель Элизабет.
Will you allow me to be present?
I think that is an excellent idea. I hope your presence will calm her and will perhaps allow her to speak more freely.
Анжелина прям такая хозяйка в конце игры. Все разузнаю, везде поприсутствую, всему посодействую.
Please, detective. I know she has done a terrible thing, but I beg of you to give her the time to explain herself.
I will offer Mademoiselle Elizabeth the fair trial that she deserves, as I would with any suspect.
Thank you, Detective Poirot.
Would you bring Mademoiselle Elizabeth to the study, where we will not be disturbed?
Of course, I'll find her immediately.
Полагаю, месье Стерлинг уже рассказал мне о том, что произошло между мадемуазель и майором. Я не верю, что она совершила бы то, что совершила, если бы он не напал на нее и не вынудил ее бояться за свою жизнь. Я должен выслушать ее рассказ, правду, и лишь затем может быть определено ее наказание.
Mademoiselle Elizabeth, merci for joining us.
Miss Angeline said you requested to see me urgently.
We have some serious matters to discuss, and I would like to waste no further time.
Oh, yes, Detective.
Как вы себя чувствуете, мадемуазель?
Still not quite myself.
I was surprised when Monsieur Sterling hurried you to assist Madame Vandenbosch last night.
I should not have avoided my duties for so long. The house does not stop because I'm feeling a little under the weather.
That is true, but you cannot be expected to complete all your tasks if you are not in the right frame of mind.
Honestly, Detective, it was best for me to not sit and wallow anymore.
Мое расследование провело меня разными путями.
Have you been able to uncover who the blackmailer is?
The blackmailer's identity has been established, and they will pay the price for their crimes.
Wonderful news, Detective. You can put it all behind you now. You must be thrilled.
I would not say thrilled, knowing that such a close friend has betrayed us.
Mademoiselle is correct. What I have learned over this weekend is that people are not always as they appear. While they may give an impression of being a friend or ally, they can in fact be something completely different.
And, what of the Major's killer?
Well, mademoiselle, that is why I have asked you here now.
Всех гостей я спросил об их мнении о майоре. Теперь я задаю этот же вопрос вам.
I'm not quite sure what you want me to say, Detective.
Your honest opinion is all I ask, and, s'il te plaît, do not hold back. No one else felt it necessary.
We only spoke when there was something in the house to be done. We did not speak of interests or pastimes.
You knew of his work with Monsieur de Silva?
I only know what is required of me to know, and that is very little.
But you were aware of his work as security at Monsieur de Silva's factory.
I was.
The factory your beloved Luke worked at before he was cruelly taken from this world.
Yes, Detective.
Как я понимаю, Люк не только участвовал в стачках, но был на передовой.
Yes, that is where he spent his last moments. Stan.
The resulting riots were a terrible tragedy, one that I hope we will not have to see or experience again. Something that could have been avoided had the Major and his team done what was required of them.
Nobody deserved to die that day. Not my Luke.
Вы вините майора в его смерти?
Detective, what kind of question is that?
It is a straightforward one.
He...
Mademoiselle, if there is something you wish to tell me, now is that time.
I'm sorry, Detective, I just don't know how to answer it.
Let us consider what we know of the Major. He fronted the militia that attacked the workers at the strike. You were aware of this? You finally had someone to blame for Luke's death. Someone conveniently located in the same house, alone in his study.
No, Detective. It wasn't like that.
Tell me what happened with the Major on the evening of his death.
I was only in here trying to prove what I heard Mr. Beckers say. I was going to report him, I swear. Miss Angeline, you believe me, don't you?
I want to. I am still trying to understand it all myself. Why don't you start from the beginning?
I was delivering Miss Angeline's dress to her room when I heard Mr. Beckers arguing with the Major in his study. They were ever so loud. I thought the whole house would have been listening to what they were saying. Mr. Beckers was talking about the factory strikes and how it was the Major's fault. He told him that if he didn't own up to his crimes, he would go to the newspapers.
I cannot imagine the Major would have taken kindly to Monsieur Becker's threat.
He didn't. He called him some rather uncouth names before Mr. Beckers left and went downstairs. I made sure to keep out of sight. After the altercation between the Major and Master Gideon, you went to speak with him outside, and I thought I could look around his study without anyone knowing. I had to know for sure. If it was true, he deserved to be held accountable.
And did you find the proof you are looking for?
I found a payment from Mr. De Silva, but there was nothing incriminating about that. I was so nervous. I felt like my heart was beating out of my chest.
And then you saw the blackmail note.
I recognized the writing on the envelope. I couldn't believe it. How could he do such a thing to Angeline? To the family that had taken him in?
Common sense would determine the Major was another victim of the blackmailer.
If I'd have used common sense, I wouldn't have been snooping around alone in his study in the first place. I heard the footsteps in the hall, and before I could move, the Major was standing in front of me, demanding to know why I was going through his belongings without permission. I tried to come up with an excuse, but nothing came out, and when he saw the letter in my hand, it was like Dr. Jekyll turning into Mr. Hyde. I tried to move around him towards the door, but he hurled something towards me, and it crashed against the wall.
That would explain the damage to the wall.
I froze. I have never been so scared in all my life. I thought he was going to kill me there and then.
And you thought you would beat him to it?
Oh, Detective, you make it sound as though I had it all planned. He lunged forward and grabbed me by the arm. I tried to push him away, but he was too strong. His grip just got tighter and tighter. If only you had seen the look in his eyes, I dared not even scream. I saw the sheath on his belt. I didn't know what else to do. I didn't want to hurt him, but he wouldn't let go of me.
So you took your opportunity to put an end to it all.
I just wanted to get him off me. I didn't want to hurt him. I reached for it and I jabbed it at him. His grip instantly loosened and I ran straight out the door and didn't look back.
You did not even look to see what state you had left him in?
She had just been attacked, Detective.
Oui, please. Continuez.
I ran down to the pantry looking for Rahana. She took one look at me and knew something was wrong. I explained to her what had happened and she went to find Archie. She said he would know what to do. We went back to the study and he was still lying there, motionless. Archie said that no one would believe me. That if someone like me killed someone like him, I would be sent straight to the gallows. He left the letter so you would find it. He said that if people knew what the Major was really like, then they wouldn't care what happened to him.
So I am to believe that it was Monsieur Sterling and Mademoiselle Rihanna that cleaned the scene and orchestrated a plan that included a fake telephone call and dressing as the Major so that he may be seen. You had nothing to do with that.
I swear I had no idea that is what they had done. Archie just told me to stay out of sight. I am no master criminal.
Then Monsieur Sterling and Mademoiselle Rihanna will be charged for obstruction of justice and impeding my investigation.
Please, Detective, they were only trying to help me.
If they wished to help you, they should have brought all of this to my attention immediately instead of committing more illegal acts.
Surely you haven't forgotten what happened with Florette. She was only accused of stealing a bracelet. I killed a man.
It is a day I have not forgotten, mademoiselle, even for a moment.
Without your help, I don't stand a chance. Please, Detective Poirot, you are the only one that can help me.
Oh, Elizabeth, why didn't you come to me?
I didn't think you would believe me. I felt so guilty. And when it was announced yesterday that he was a victim of the blackmailer, I wanted to tell you everything. I came to find you last night, Detective, but Archie stopped me. I'm sorry.
I cannot see the logic in this. Some would say a lucky guess.
Рассказ Элизабет подтверждает слова Марго. Смерть майора стала результатом самозащиты. Наконец, я раскрыл дело об убийстве майора. Должен признать, я не испытываю радости, объявив мадемуазель Элизабет убийцей. Хотелось бы мне, чтобы она никогда не становилась ею. Это что? Анджелина?
Yes, of course, Detective.
Pardonnez-moi for a moment, mademoiselle.
Oh, yes, Detective.
А пропавший нож майора?
I don't know where it is.
If you have been honest with me until now, I ask that you continue.
I'm sorry, I really don't know. Archie dropped it out of the study window and he said he would deal with it. I couldn't bear to touch the thing.
Нож у меня. И судя по реакции мадемуазель, она не знает, что с ним стало. Она не знает о том, что на что месье Стерлинг и мадемуазель Риана пошли, чтобы скрыть то, что она наделала. Месье Стерлинг не лгал, говоря, что пойдет на все ради нее. Мерси, мадемуазель, сильвупле, подождите в моей комнате.
Please, I was only protecting myself. I didn't want to hurt him. He just wouldn't let me go.
Oui, mademoiselle. I know. Mademoiselle tells quite the harrowing story.
I cannot imagine the Major acting in such a way, but Elizabeth could not make up such a story.
After learning what I have about the Major's character this weekend, I would not question the lengths he would go to in order to keep his secret hidden. I know that you share a close bond with Mademoiselle Elizabeth, but you cannot allow your personal feelings to taint your belief of what took place.
She has committed a terrible crime, but she will live with that for the rest of her life. She is not a cold-blooded killer.
If what she says of the Major's attack is true, she acted in self-defense. And in the law's eyes, a crime has not been committed. I will do everything I can to make sure her story is heard and a fair trial is conducted.
Полагаю, версия событий, рассказанная мадемуазель Элизабет, правдива. Майор пришел в ярость от того, что его омерзительные тайны выйдут на свет. Он напал на юную мадемуазель и довел ее до того, что ей пришлось сделать все, чтобы защитить себя. Она поставила себя в опасное положение, но малая часть меня одобряет то, что она сделала ради справедливости своего возлюбленного и других рабочих, потерявших жизни по приказу майора. Если телефонная линия сейчас работает, я должен позвонить и сообщить о своих открытиях. Снега еще много, полиция может приехать не скоро.
Mademoiselle, it is time I address the house.
Are you sure? What will you say? What if they do not listen?
I can assure you, they will.
Elizabeth was right, though. She's just a servant. What if they...
Mademoiselle, when Detective Poirot speaks, they will listen. Would you ask the guests to convene in the library?
Of course. And what of the staff?
I have told Monsieur Starling to remain in the staff quarters with the others. When the authorities arrive, they shall be dealt with. You have been of great help to me throughout my investigation, and now that it is over, I have one final request.
You only need to ask.
While I am speaking with the guests in the library, would you watch over Mademoiselle Elizabeth in my room?
You don't think she will try and escape, do you?
In her position, I do not know what she might try. But I trust with you there, any potential ideas of such a thing will be squashed.
Глава 9. Развязка. Они в кои-то веки сидят, они стоят как болванчики.
Detective, you have spent more time making us sit and wait for you than anything else.
Madame Van den Bosch, if you think I have spent my time focused on anything besides uncovering the Major's killer, you are sorely mistaken.
I'm sure you will be eager to share your findings with us then.
All in good time, Madame. Firstly, to understand the truth of what has occurred this weekend, one must know the timeline of events that not only preceded the Major's death, but succeeded.
We are all well aware of what happened before, Detective. You can save your breath.
You are only aware of what the guilty parties wanted you to believe. But now I shall apprise you to the true events. The reason for us all being here, you know. The altercation between Monsieur Demire and the Major, you know. The body of Monsieur Hagen was found while we were all sat enjoying a most delicious meal. That you also know. But what was kept from us all was that his body lay on the study floor for far longer than was thought.
It was that servant. She found him.
S'il te plaît, monsieur. It was indeed young Inga that found the Major's body lying lifeless in the study.
So it was her.
Monsieur, I will not allow for any further interruptions. I return to the Major's body. If we are to believe the scene that we were presented with, the Major must have been killed during the first course of our meal, a meal that none of you left, even for a moment. Speaking in the evening, you all confirmed one another's alibis, and although there was doubt in the validity of some, I confirmed that they were indeed all true. What I could not understand was how a man came to be found dead, and every guest accounted for at the time of death. That is until I questioned the latter. Monsieur Beckers, I shall now allow you to speak. You saw the Major smoking a cigar in the snow. Is that true?
It is.
False. You saw what you are meant to see. Someone in the Major's coat standing outside, giving the illusion that the Major was still very much alive. Monsieur da Silva, on the afternoon of the Major's death, do you recall hearing a telephone ring?
Now that you mention it, I have not heard a single ring all weekend.
Correct. The telephone lines have been down for the duration of our stay, meaning the telephone call that was received and promptly directed to the Major's study was yet another act of trickery and deceit. But it did not end there. When I entered the study for the first time, it was obvious someone had already been there and falsified the scene to stage a burglary and clear away important evidence, including the murder weapon. What followed was an investigation that had already been hindered. But even those lengths were not enough to derail me for long.
I think we have all had enough of your self-praise, Detective. Perhaps you would like to tell us who killed him now?
Madame, as I'm sure you would expect, it is not as simple as that. What many of you do not know is the discussion that was had between the Major and Monsieur Beckers earlier that day.
What has that got to do with anything? I told you I didn't kill him.
That I know to be true. What you do not know is that it was not only his ears that heard your spoken words.
I hope you are not implying I had something to do with it.
No, Madame, there was another. Mademoiselle Elizabeth. You are all aware that the Major was hired by Monsieur de Silva to front the security during the workers' strikes. What very few of you know is that it was the Major's order that instigated the vicious attacks on those unarmed men and resulted in numerous deaths, including Mademoiselle Elisabeth's fiancé, Luc. Monsieur Beckers confronted the Major, declaring that he was to hand himself in. That is what Mademoiselle Elisabeth overheard. Now, knowing the truth, she waited until the Major was away from his study. After he stepped outside following the confrontation with Monsieur Demir's fist, it looked to be the perfect opportunity, or so she thought. The Major returned and found her looking for the proof she required to hand him over to the authorities.
If the maid bumped him off, why hasn't she been arrested?
The events that followed in the study are not those of a cold-blooded murder, but one of a young girl that had no other option but to protect her own life.
Sounds to me, Detective, like you have taken a shine to this young girl and would rather protest her innocence than arrest her for murder, the crime she has committed.
Jeez, this is gonna make for a juicy story.
Mademoiselle, I ask you this. You have seen the Major's anger before, oui?
What if I have?
How do you think he would have reacted if someone was to find proof that he had committed a terrible act, and that, if made public, would surely result in his incarceration? Exactement.
It is quite the story you have told, Detective, but all I have heard is that Elizabeth overheard a conversation blaming the Major for her fiancé's death, and she murdered him in revenge. A servant killing a man that is as revered as he was. She will face the noose.
I am not denying that a man has lost his life, but it is not the crime of murder that you all believe. While the Major did not deserve to die in such a way, it was his actions towards Mademoiselle Elisabeth that drove her to defend herself in any way she could. Mademoiselle Elisabeth will be punished, but we will let the law decide the severity of her punishment.
She has played you like a fiddle, Detective, acting the innocent victim. She will be arrested and hanged for her crime, like every other cold-blooded killer.
Here, here.
Give her what she deserves.
The girl has got to pay for what she's done.
Я не мог яснее рассказать, что произошло в кабинете майора. Все они забыли личную неприязнь к майору, ужасные преступления, которые он совершил, и что он так или иначе сделал с ними. Я не могу допустить, чтобы на приговор мадемуазель Элизабет негативно повлияли собравшиеся в этом доме. Я должен показать им, что их действия в прошлом привели к этим печальным обстоятельствам и убийствам. Возможно, мне стоит напомнить им об участии не только в забастовке рабочих, но и в последовавших беспорядках.
Those of you that are calling for the hanging of Mademoiselle Elisabeth, have you forgotten the roles you played? Your actions have been far from innocent.
Look, Detective, I see where you are going with this, but it's not going to work. So maybe the strikes were down to De Silva and Beckers. But don't try and drag me into their mistakes.
Mademoiselle Conrad, if you are so confident of your innocence, perhaps we should begin with you.
Убедить мадемуазель Конрад признать ее причастность будет делом непростым. Она сильная женщина и в прошлом уже отражала неудобные вопросы. Возможно, нужно быть агрессивнее. Вы сделаете почти все ради красивого заголовка, не так ли?
You don't need to imply it's only me that does. Ask any of my journalists, they'll say the same.
Even if in the process people are hurt? You knew the situation surrounding the strikes and only sought to swell the anger in people and create further chaos. Mademoiselle, you so often have something to say. Now is not the time for silence.
You really are delusional. Maybe you should just keep your theories and claims to yourself.
Типично. Как только оппонент говорит что-то, что тебе не нравится, надо сказать, что он оторван от реальности. Вы использовали других людей в собственных интересах, не считаясь с последствиями.
You obviously have no idea what goes on in my world. I would say stick to honest police work, but it seems that it's not in your field either.
Вы позволили другим упасть и прошлись по их спинам.
Look, it's...
Mademoiselle, I do not have time for your excuses. Do you wish to state your direct involvement, or should I?
It's not... Okay, fine. Yes, the story was going nowhere. There was a deal on the table, and it was going to be done and dusted. Everything you said is true. I wanted the story. The scoop that would have blown the others out of the water. I never wanted anyone to get hurt. But I can see what I did wasn't right. I didn't think you had this side in you. I can see now why Angeline asked for you personally. You're not like other cops. It's clear it's the law and doing the right thing through and through with you.
Как
If you say it
заговорила.
was self-defense, I believe you.
We can't just forget what that girl has done. It's not Jackie's fault, or any of ours, that she decided to do what she did.
Monsieur Beckers, you are the last person I expected to defend Mademoiselle Conrad. We talked only last night, and correct me if I am wrong, but you have already declared the role you played. To me, at least.
Yes, we talked. It's just not fair of you to attack Jackie like that, putting words in her mouth until she succumbs to your plan.
В нашей вчерашней беседе месье Беккерс признал свою роль в стачках и беспорядках, но кажется только между нами. Возможно, ему не нравится, когда его личные дела выносятся на публику, но если это нужно, чтобы убедить его, то так тому и быть. Вы же глава профсоюза, и тем не менее вами управлял человек, не имеющий никакого отношения к делам профсоюза.
Detective, I'm afraid you're misunderstood. That is not how it was. It was not my intention for things to escalate as they did. I could not have predicted that would happen. Jackie was documenting everything to do with the strikes. She wanted our story to be heard and wanted to know how I was handling the negotiations.
And they were handled by yourself?
Naturally. If I cannot handle simple negotiations, I am not fit to be in the position I am in.
Вы же из тех, кто очень гордится своей работой. А гордитесь ли вы решениями, принятыми в ходе забастовок?
I was only pushing for what my men deserved, what they needed. Hindsight is a wonderful thing, Detective. Surely you must know that. Nothing is ever simple, Detective. I'm sure you understand that better than anyone.
Вы сражались за тех, у кого нет голоса. Несомненно, вы не позволите еще одному человеку погибнуть в вихре социальной дискриминации.
You're right, Detective. I have tried so hard to deny my part, but I know only too well that my decisions led to the death of those men.
Всех под суд.
I know I cannot excuse what I've done. I just want you all to know that I am not a hateful or malicious man. I only wanted to prove that I was the right man. I have lived in other shadows for so long. I thought I would be able to finally step into the light and be the one that everyone remembered, not forgot. Monsieur da Silva offered me a deal and I turned it down. I thought I was doing right by the workers. But it was only myself I was thinking.
What more proof do you need? He said it himself. I made a generous offer to reach a resolution, and he turned his nose up at it.
It was not that simple, though. Oui, an offer was made, but Monsieur Beckers and the workers would never have been forced into that position had their working conditions been satisfactory to begin with.
This is outrageous! Do you plan on blaming everyone for doing their jobs? I suppose it makes you feel better about yourself, doesn't it?
Почему Эрнесто такой громкий, в отличие от всех остальных? Хотя месье де Силва наконец открылся, При обсуждении его шантажа он занял оборонительную позицию. И это во время частного разговора за закрытыми дверями. Не могу представить, как он проговорит все это перед гостями. Его нужно убедить признать свои ошибки еще раз. Если бы вы просто выполняли свою работу и справедливо относились к своим рабочим, забастовок бы не было.
It may be a big deal to you, but I am used to work as not being happy with something. And most of the time, that unhappiness is directed at me. When you're in charge of your own factory, you'll understand. I handle the situation the best I could. If you think otherwise, maybe you have proved us all right, that you aren't the great detective you claim to be.
Вы хотели платить анонимному шантажисту, обвинившему вас в том же самом?
You said it. Anonymous. I don't know them, and it doesn't sound like they know me. When you have something people want, money, they will do anything, including constructing lies to get their hands on it.
Monsieur da Silva, you seem to have forgotten our previous conversations.
I recall them just fine, thank you. A police officer trying to manipulate facts to fit his own agenda. Shocking.
Обвинение в дурном обращении с работниками и найм вооруженных людей, чтобы они следили за порядком? Эти факты я искажаю в своих интересах.
Is that what you plan to do? Accuse us all of something until we feel enough guilt that we agree to allow the girl to walk free.
Эрнест потрачен, короче.
The events that led to the Major's murder are not as simple as you have tried to convince yourself. I have uncovered what initiated both the murder of your workers and of the Major. It is you.
Apparently anyone can become a detective now. I really don't know how you gained your title.
Through order and...
Order? There's no order in beating down who you consider suspects until they have no other option but to admit something, guilty or not.
Monsieur da Silva, you have stood steadfast, and your opinion on your involvement has not wavered.
Detective, you would do well not to anger my friends.
It was not my intention. I only want those responsible to be held accountable for their actions. The Major's death does not fall on one person alone.
Мне кажется, или я сейчас всрала концовку?
Does your position on Mademoiselle Elizabeth's guilt remain the same?
Even after all your attempts, Detective, Felix was still murdered. Self-defense or not, she chose to hide what she had done because she knew what she had done was wrong. And she will be punished for it.
It was not choice to hide anything, madame. If in her position, I ask, what would you have done? The Major has already furiously thrown an object at you, barely missing your head, and now has hold of your arm.
I wouldn't have driven a knife into him, that I can tell you for sure. She is no fool. She intended to kill, not to defend.
С мадам Ванденбош будет посложнее, чем с остальными гостями. Но моя методика и мой подход срабатывали с ней прежде. Я должен убедить ее в том, что у мадемуазель, какое сложное слово, Элизабет не было выбора. Мне нужно убедить ее в том, что майор вынудил девушку поступить так, как она поступила. Вы были самым близким майору человеком. Его необузданный нрав не должен вас удивлять.
Quite presumptuous of you to assume violence is in his nature.
Putting my own feelings towards the Major aside, he was not an honorable man, at least at some time in his life. He must have been for you to allow him in your house for so many years. So, Even you confirm he had a history of aggression.
Майор был с позором уволен в отставку из британской армии. Вы знаете за что?
I'm sure that is none of my business. Likewise,
The Major shot and killed a number of unarmed prisoners as they were bound and terrified. His actions are unforgivable and should not be defended by anyone.
you judge him so harshly. But I return the question. What would you have done in his position? He had made mistakes. I will not deny that. In those moments when a decision had to be made, it fell to him, and he did what he saw fit.
А как же дурное отношение майора к вам? Вы можете его оправдать?
S'il te plaît, madame. I ask that you consider everything you know of the Major carefully.
He was not always like that. The man that I called a friend would never have done what he has. I cannot allow another innocent person to be punished for his vicious and barbarous behavior.
You have seen the Major act in a similar manner as I described before, haven't you? What was the outcome then?
You have convinced me that I am wrong, in both my opinion on Elizabeth's punishment and in the friendships I keep. Is that not enough for you?
Not when a potential crime has been committed, and I fear an innocent party may have been punished for it.
He was just a boy. I told him to stop, but he was like a wild animal.
The confrontation with Mademoiselle Elizabeth was not the first time he has come close to killing another.
It was following the officers' ball. A young man, no older than 16, stopped us on the street, begging for some change. Felix pushed him away, but he was persistent. He only wanted a few coins. Like a flash, Felix snapped and wouldn't let go of him. He would not stop punching him. I have never seen anything so brutal.
But he was never charged for the attack.
Felix called the captain at the station and said that the boy had tried to rob him, and he was merely defending himself. The boy was thrown behind bars without a second thought. It was a full week before the bruises on Felix's knuckles finally faded.
And even after witnessing such a brutal assault, you still support him. You still believe that he had not attacked Elizabeth.
The days following, he showed no signs of remorse, no apology to him or to me. I blamed it on the amount he had had to drink. But when you began talking about him finding Elizabeth in his study, I somehow knew it had happened again.
Had you been open about the Major's temper, this could all have been avoided. When you tell the courts the truth, Mademoiselle Elizabeth's self-defense plea cannot be ignored.
Just when I thought I could not see a more spineless move.
Excuse me?
You allowed a bully and thug to remain in your house and endanger your family.
I'm sorry, Margot, but I am struggling to understand why you have involved yourself in this affair.
I'm surprised you can hear me way up there on that high horse of yours.
How dare you speak to me in that way? Who I decide to keep in my house is my decision and no one else's.
I can see that. Murderers, thieves, and extortionists are all acceptable, it seems.
Countess, I have talked at length of the Major's death, but not the reason for my invitation in the first place. When I last gathered you all together, I spoke of a blackmail ring that was rife in the area, and then of the letter that the Major had received.
Пуаро всех раскидал. Ну, кроме до Силва.
Mademoiselle Angeline requested my help personally after she received such a letter threatening her family name. She felt I was the only one that could uncover the truth. And uncover the truth I have.
Get on with it, detective. Who dared try and extort my family and then have the gall to allow me to welcome them into my home?
If it was not for the honesty of a young servant, I would perhaps still be looking for the
For goodness sake, it was me.
Margot, how could you?
While it looked as though the Countess was helping the young women at the shelter, she was in fact only finding them positions of employment in wealthy homes to gather information on them and learn secrets that she would ultimately be able to use against them. Monsieur da Silva fell victim to her network of moles and was in turn blackmailed. It was quite the prosperous setup you had, knowing that they would not be prepared to lose their social standing if a secret was to find its way from where it had been hidden for so long.
That cannot be true, Margot. How could you do such a cruel thing?
That is rich, coming from you.
You are one of my oldest friends.
High and mighty, Madame Van den Bosch. You think you can do what you wish when you wish it and there will be no repercussions. You are as bad as all of them.
If I do not get a straight answer out of you, I will march you to the police station myself.
I'm surprised it took the Major this long to start living with you. He must have been on the edge for some time.
How dare you speak to me like that? In my own home.
A home you share with the father of your daughter for so many years, and she still remains none the wiser.
You have no right.
Maman,
Angeline? Have you heard what she has admitted to? She is merely trying to make herself...
is what she says true? Felix, he was my father? That is the secret that the letter was talking about, isn't it? You told me that we had nothing to hide. Detective Poirot, were you aware of this?
Oui, mademoiselle. But it was not my place to repeat.
I don't understand. What about father?
Your maman betrayed the love of a good, honest man and played away behind his back and then kept it hidden for all these years like a lady of the night with her client list.
You will say no more. Angeline, I...
Did Felix know?
This is not an appropriate conversation.
He knew, dear girl. He knew the whole time. It is only dear Edwin that was blind to their deceit.
You will not talk of him like that. You will not talk of him at all.
If I don't, who will?
Мне кажется, тут сейчас еще одно
Never
убийство
deserved
произойдет.
him. You don't even
Возможно,
deserve the
массово.
memory of him.
Countess, there is something that you still have not explained.
What more is there for her to say?
How long were you in love with the Viscount for?
Oh.
Margot? Is that true?
We were destined to be together. And then you turned up. And I was all but forgotten about.
But you were nothing more than friends.
And you made sure of that, didn't you? From the day you arrived, it was all about what you wanted and what you had to do to get it. You didn't consider Edwin at all. He was just a purse to you.
I loved my husband, and I miss him every day.
Loved him enough to stray?
Both of you, no more.
Please, Angeline, let me explain.
Maman, I do not wish to hear anything else from you.
Not even your own daughter wants to hear your lies anymore. Cassandra Van den Bosch, all alone.
How dare you!
Пуаро задолбался.
While I feel a sense of satisfaction and pride in solving both cases, there is still a part of me that is reluctant to revel in triumph. I am content with the unmasking of Countess de Vos as the blackmailer, and knowing that she will pay for her crimes. But it is the justice for Mademoiselle Elizabeth that worries me. She will stand in a court of law, and I can only hope that they can see she acted in self-defense. I must trust that our legal system and justice will prevail, and a fair sentencing will be given. In protecting her own life, she took the life of another. Perhaps the guilt she must live with is a greater punishment than any sentence she can receive. Countess de Vos was taken from Nemosine House in cuffs and placed under arrest. Although she initially tried to plead her innocence, Inga, along with a number of other girls that the Countess had found employment for, came forward and made full statements. She was charged with 5 counts of blackmail and extortion and sent to a house of corrections, where she will have a new life to become accustomed to. Monsieur Sterling and Mademoiselle Rihanna were also reprimanded for their participation. While they may not be facing time in prison, tampering with a crime scene and obstruction of a police investigation are certainly not something that houses and new employers will look positively on. Mademoiselle Angeline finally became Madame Demire, and together they took up residence in England, where Monsieur Demire continues to support and fight for fairness and equality in London. I am happy to say that we have remained in contact, and Madame Demire has become a regular correspondent of mine. And the latest joyous news is that they are expecting a child of their own. Madame van den Bosch showed compassion that I had not seen in her before. She stood in court and gave a truthful and genuine character reference of Elizabeth, as well as describing the Major and the atrocious crimes he had committed. After Madame van den Bosch's secret was revealed to the world, her position in the social hierarchy was no more, disappearing in a moment. While she still resides in Belgium, I believe she has had to adapt to a far more modest way of life. A humbling experience for her, I am sure. Following her actions in the courtroom, Angeline believed that her maman still had a place in her life. Although they are on different sides of La Manche, they remain in contact. Mademoiselle Conrad left Nemosine House the same way she entered, confident in herself and audacious in her opinions. Her report of the Major's murder at the house and the surrounding blackmails became one of the most talked about stories of the year. While there were certain details of her own involvement that did not make it to print, she was really quite complimentary about the detective at the heart of the case. Monsieur de Silva tried to continue in his position as factory owner and business entrepreneur, but after his accounts and business dealings were investigated following the details of his blackmail being made public in Mademoiselle Conrad's article, his illustrious business empire began to crumble and is now facing an international corporate investigation. Monsieur Beckers stepped down from his position as union leader, accepting that he was no longer fit to represent the workforce that, in his words, he had let down on a scale of unmeasurable proportion. Although he is no longer the voice of the workers, he continues to support them from behind the scenes. Monsieur Zachariah and his brother made amends, and returning to his family home, and after sobering up, he was able to find the help that he required. I understand that he is now helping fellow soldiers with similar conditions. And Mademoiselle Elizabeth, she stood before a court, and while the proceedings were deemed controversial, the charges against her were dropped, and the reasoning of self-defense was accepted by the presiding judge. Madame van den Bosch's testimony, along with Mademoiselle Angeline's declaration of her good character, was enough to show that it was not in Elizabeth's nature to act in such a violent way. The abundance of evidence against the Major, and his violent and cruel nature, including his appalling acts during the strikes and the war, was more than enough to prove that Mademoiselle Elizabeth had no other option in that situation but to defend herself in any way that she could. With the new arrival of Madame and Monsieur Demire's child next year, they have agreed to give Elizabeth the opportunity to return home to England and take up a position in their home as nanny. The death of Elizabeth's beloved Luke has been at the center of everything. Had those in positions to help not acted with only themselves in mind, perhaps he would still be alive today, and the Major would have paid the price for his own crimes in the eyes of the law, not at the blade of a knife. The blood of Major Felix Egan will remain on Elizabeth's hands. A stain that wherever she is and whatever she may do, she will never be able to wash clean. However, it will remain as a reminder to not only her, but all of us, of what we as human beings are capable of to protect ourselves. We all have something that may be considered shameful or sinful, and it is how we deal with it that shows our true character. Those involved in the riots, the workers' deaths, and the Major's killing believed themselves to be untouchable. Whether it was from their social standing or their confidence in themselves, they learned that everyone is accountable for their actions. There is no exemption because of the suit you wear or the money in your bank account. There is no price to a man's life. It cannot be bought or traded or discarded. No man is better than another, including Detective Hercule Poirot.
В общем, единственный недостаток этой игры — это однообразный геймплей. То есть, если бы его разбавили чем-то еще, какими-нибудь там головоломками, не знаю, исследованием локаций чуть более разнообразным, это была бы вообще конфетка. Ну, либо сделали бы сюжет чуть покороче, потому что его прям старательно растянули, прям вот очень-очень пошагово все сделали, это видно и в том, как построена история, и вот в этих вот наших построениях связей, где нельзя там, грубо говоря, сократить путь, перейти от мысли 1 к мысли там 3 или 4, надо обязательно пройти через 2 и через 3. Даже если твой мозг пропускает это как, ну, само собой разумеющееся. Вот. А так в целом игра довольно приятная. И по рисовке, по музыке, по геймплею тому же, который, конечно, однообразный, но для детектива вполне стандартный, это нормально. Персонажи очень приятные, к ним испытываешь эмоции. То есть вот это не просто там какие-то куклы, с которыми там поболтал, как бы, ну и ладно. А все-таки там эта мадам Ванденбош бесит в основном. Под конец восхищает, потому что такому человеку очень непросто изменить свое поведение. И то, что она в конце там вступилась за Элизабет, признала сложность ситуации, которую она до этого не хотела видеть. Это очень важно. Мы видим, как там вырастает Анжелина от первого дела ко второму. Видим, какая история, как взгляды стоят за каждым из персонажей, даже за слугами. Это очень классно. Вот, история многомерная. Не просто детективный сюжет, а сюжет, за который цепляются там вот социальные еще какие-то проблемы. Там политические еще какие-то. Они здорово показаны в рамках вот такой вот камерной истории. Единственное, они немножко упоролись в нравоучение, но, возможно, это тоже обусловлено жанром и тем, что у нас есть вот есть такой правильный Пуаро, который все вот детально осмысляет и стремится из всего происходящего сделать какие-то выводы, что-то для себя понять. И заодно вот делают так, чтобы игрок тоже что-то для себя понял происходящее. Очень ненапряжная игра, что тоже здорово. При этом надо пошевелить мозгами, что не менее здорово. Не уверена, что буду в нее когда-то переигрывать, но вот один раз пройти ее стоит. Что еще? Ну вот, наверное, основные мои впечатления. И в целом они довольно хорошие. Так что я считаю, что Пуаро удался. Вот. Дослушаем красивую музыку из титров и встретимся в следующий раз. В следующий раз в шляпе. А потом я подумаю. Мне, с одной стороны, хочется пройти Детройт, будь человеком уже наконец. С другой стороны, хочется устроить марафон Ведьмака, начиная с первого и до упора, что называется. Ну, марафон с оговорками на мое постоянство и частоту появления на канале. А может быть, я пойду проходить что-то еще. В общем, вот такие есть варианты, но интрига сохраняется. Поэтому до встречи в следующих прохождениях.